Chapter 60. Where are demons? Perhaps, no matter what race they are, their first reaction upon hearing this question would be disgust, extreme disgust. It can be said that no living creature would like demons, including themselves. Towards their own kind, they're mostly filled with resentment and hatred. Chaotic, violent, evil, destructive, greedy, untrustworthy, other than cunning, almost all negative nouns can be attached to them. The reason why no one would accuse demons of being cunning and deceiving is because most of the time, these creatures of chaos lack the interest to communicate. If they can use their muscles to solve the problem, they would definitely not use words, not to mention using their brains to deceive others. The devils, who are equally evil and have many similarities in various aspects, although they also have a bad reputation. In reality, they are much more popular than the demons. It is just that the devils like to make contracts and transactions. They are reasonable. Although there are some overbearing clauses and hidden clauses in the contracts, there will definitely be some deceit and hidden tricks in the transactions. But the devils are also famous for keeping their promises. It is much better than those demons who destroy everything indiscriminately. The demons are the first generation of people created by the goddess of chaos, Cynthia. They are the ones who tempted the first generation of humans to fall into the devils, and also the ones who created the undead calamity. Logically speaking, they should be the natives of this distant universe, the backbone of the Chaos faction. In this book, the demons belong to the Chaos faction. They follow the goddess of chaos, but as they used to be the people of order, their actions are biased towards order. But in reality, demons were the mortal enemies of devils and the public enemies of the undead. Their internal conflicts were the cruelest, and all species loathed them to the extreme. However, they still occupied the vast majority of the lower planes and caused havoc in various planes. There is no other reason. They are strong enough and have enough numbers. As long as the river Styx is still flowing, the undead in it is still constantly transforming into the lowest tier dretches. The demons have an endless amount of backup. The plane where the demons reside in is forever in internal wars, and after the cruel internal wars and devouring, it is destined to produce true experts. When demons and devils of the same tier fight one-on-one, more than 90% of the demons will survive. Every time the demon gate of the main plane opens, even if it is only a small group of demons entering, it is still a huge problem. After leaving the lower plane, they will gradually decline, but before they die and return to the lower plane, they will bring along countless souls, and souls will forever be the most valuable currency in the lower plane. And this time, it is really troublesome. In the past, the demon worshippers only dared to secretly sacrifice a few people. Sacrificing 1,000 people is already shocking. This time, more than 100,000 veterans and over 1,000 legendary experts have undoubtedly created a new historical record. This unprecedented sacrifice allowed the demon count to descend with his true body. This is definitely an unprecedented disaster. An abyssal earl didn't seem to have a high rank, and there were many of them in the bottomless abyss. However, in reality, they were already existences at the level of an abyssal army commander. If he advanced one step further, he would be an abyssal duke. That was usually the overlord of a plane, and he could fight against a true god. Among the demons, Marquis and Grand Duke are both honorary titles. The demon Marquis are those who are much stronger than a normal count, but are unable to advance to Duke because they do not have their own plane. The Grand Duke is an existence that can look down on normal Duke-level demons. Vance City is already in a mess, and the news of the demon nobles descending has already spread like wildfire. Even Rose doesn't have the time to care about the matter of her daughter being killed. After being banished by the elf gods, the underground world is her only territory and source of faith. If it is turned into ruins by the demons, she will have to go into hibernation or even fall. Of course, it would be even more embarrassing if she descends directly and gets beaten to a pulp. She is probably discussing with the other gods of the underground world about the decision to send out their troops together. By the time the true gods step in to solve the problem, the entire underground world would probably be in a mess. Spatial summoning and teleportation are the specialties of the demons. Using the spatial distortion and demon altar, the gate to the abyss is opened. In response to the summoning of his lord, Kakajil's direct army surges into the main plane. Dretches, Quasairs, Succubi, Spider Hunters, Vlo demons, Glabrizid demons, etc. Demons that can be classified and can't be classified all rush into the main plane until the main plane gate is finally unable to withstand the pressure and cracks into pieces. The entire battlefield is filled with demons. Looking at the distant Vance City, the low-tier demons are filled with desire for fresh blood and souls. But under the suppression of their master, they suppress their instincts and enter another permanent spatial distortion, Sulphur Mountain City. The demon army is vast, and the might of their army is eroding the laws of this plane. Wherever they pass by, the plants would naturally wither and die. The land would turn into reddish-brown, scorched earth, and right after that, even stranger plants would grow. Furthermore, most of them are carnivorous plants with strong offensive capabilities. The existence of the demons, created from chaos itself, is enough to destroy the laws of the plane. At this moment, half an army of demons has descended into the mortal world, along with the true body of a demon count. If they aren't chased away as soon as possible, the laws of this plane would be completely distorted and even turn into a new lower plane. Low-tier hellhounds are scarlet red in color, and they are even uglier and bigger than the ugliest wolf. They serve as both scouts and hunting dogs. Without waiting for the army to arrive, they who are adept at spitting fire and ambushing as a group have already swept away all the tribes along the way. When they drag the Terrorclaw family who just suffered a calamity to their master to claim credit, they realize that there's a person blocking the path in front of the army. That's right, there was only one person, a person in a blue robe. She leaned on her ivy staff and was quietly reading the ancient book in her hand. Even when the hellhounds charged at her, she didn't lift her head up. Kacha! That low-tier hellhound is frozen in midair and turns into an ice sculpture, following which it shatters into pieces and falls to the ground. On the other hand, Marguerite's attention is still focused on her book. It is only when the army approaches that she raises her head and uses her staff to lightly tap on the Philosopher's Stone that is floating beside her. Ice Aeon. The forbidden spell that she had prepared a long time ago explodes in an instant. The ice spirit sings loudly in midair, and the entire underground world turns into a land of white snow. Endless ice and a blizzard rush towards the demon army. After the blizzard passes, the entire world turns into ice, and the number of demons frozen to death is uncountable. However, Marguerite frowns the most. After all, she is only replicating the magic of someone else. She doesn't have the soul imprint, racial talent, and other buffs. She only has the most basic might, and is far from the original version. If Lord Yonya's Ice Aeon was to be blasted by this, even a demon marquis would be finished. However, if it is Marguerite who is casting it, kill her. Under the thick white snow, a 100-meter-tall figure is the first to stand up. Its entire body is covered in raging flames, and it roars as it charges forward. As expected, the majority of the might is blocked by this demon lord. Shaking her head, Marguerite isn't discouraged. With a wave of her staff, another Philosopher's Stone shines with a bluish-purple spatial radiance, and she is teleported several miles away. Foolish country bumpkin from the main plane, you actually dared to make a fool out of the great Kakajil. I will tear you into 13 pieces and feed them to the dogs. Then, I will roast your soul on fire for 10,000 years. However, it is obvious that Marguerite, who has already escaped far away, is unable to hear this vicious curse. The majority of the might of the forbidden spell is blocked by the demon count. Other than those low-tier demons of the fire element being killed by the double damage from the Ice Aeon, the losses of the army isn't too great. However, very quickly, after walking a few miles, the same thing happens again. Compound forbidden spell. Song of Fire and Wind. The fire and wind compound forbidden spell originating from Ein Mises brings about a 100-meter-tall tornado of flames. It even brings the powerful Cockajil up from the ground. However, it is a pity that the outcome of the battle this time is even worse. This spell of wind augments the strength of the fire, mainly relying on the damage of the flames. Due to the natural resistance of the demons to fire, Marguerite is only able to deal basic damage. In the end, less than 1,000 demons are killed. On the other hand, the weak beastmen cannon fodder are swept into the tornado of flames, resulting in more than 10,000 casualties. Then, looking at the female saint who disappears into the dimension gate once again, the furious Cockajil can only grab a few beastmen and chew them to vent his anger. The weird thing is that when the beastmen look at their compatriots being eaten, not only do they not resist, they don't even discuss about it. Furthermore, their current appearance is very abnormal. Their crimson eyes are filled with blood veins as they stare blankly in front of them. Their already huge body grows even bigger. Regardless of which beastman race they are originally from, their skin has an unhealthy red color. On the other hand, most of the experts have the characteristics of demons. Demon's blood. Yes, just like what I heard previously, as show's final choice, the demon's blood has been mixed in the drinking water this morning. However, once it is activated, show will have no way out. At this moment, the demon's blood bestowed by the demon lord has been activated, allowing the potential of the beastman elite soldiers to be stimulated. While their fighting prowess increases greatly without fear of pain, they also become puppets in the hands of the demons. As for Sho himself, he is the cannon fodder number 1 who charges blindly. Right now, half of his body is frozen while the other half is burnt. The only reason why he didn't die to the forbidden spell is because his life is tough. At the peak of the mountain far away, looking at the dim Saint Stone, Marguerite makes a slight estimation and is a little surprised. Opening a dimension gate to escape after throwing away the forbidden spell. Kiting a mage, I didn't expect that fellow's messing around tactic would be so effective. It is a pity that the copied forbidden spell has been used up. It would be even harder to see the effectiveness of the regular AoE magic. No, at the very least, I can buy some time. They should be here soon. Disappearing from the dimension gate once again, killing intent appears in the great saint's calm eyes. That is the dissatisfaction of having his most cherished possession threatened. From their current position, they can faintly see Sulphur Mountain City. If the demon army were to enter Sulphur Mountain City, definitely not. Definitely not. But it is a pity that things don't always go according to one's wishes. After the demon army and Cockajil are prepared, this kiting tactic doesn't have much of an effect anymore. Especially when the Saint class had used up all of the copied magic, their offensive magic takes up a lot of time, and their might is low. Especially after that familiar-looking Abyss Demon Dragon was on high alert. There were 2 times when Marguerite was almost frozen by the other party space anchor. If she were to react a little slower, she would be surrounded and killed by the demon army. Finally, realizing that this isn't able to buy any time and that it is just a waste of magic, gritting her teeth, looking at the demon army, which is getting closer and closer to the city, Marguerite teleports to the top of the city walls. But what is surprising is that the top of the city walls is already filled with people. Sulphur Mountain City doesn't have an army. After Wumians took away half of the town's security, which can barely be called an army, the remaining are all here. But what is most surprising are those commoners. The engineers of the various races are working hard to assemble the cannons and catapults. Drool of the Wild Bull Alliance is also wearing his leather armor and picking up his wooden staff. The students of South Ascension Academy are carrying their wooden sword and walking up the city walls. As for the Holy Church's Holy Knight and Holy Church's priests, they are passing their spare equipment to the youngsters to equip. At least they're still able to fight. But those aunties and uncles who are using pot lids as helmets and their own kitchen knives as weapons, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at the bustling scene of preparing for war, Marguerite is a little touched, but also a little speechless. Who told you to come? Who they are willing to come? I interrupted Marguerite's words. At the side, Little Red is so tired that she is lying on the ground with her tongue hanging out. On the other hand, Adam is sitting on the cannon on the city walls, squinting his eyes as he looks into the distance. He seems to be very relaxed, but I know that all of his focus is locked onto that tall demon lord. Originally, Adam and the others intended to intercept the demon army along the way. But after seeing the endless demon army and the inconceivably powerful demon lord, I suggested to wait for them to come to us in Sulphur Mountain City. After all, this is where my final trump card is hidden. Yes, everyone is willing. Everyone just wants to use their own hands to protect their own home. Looking at the bustling scene, Anne's fighting spirit soars. Crimson flames burn on the god sword. Looking at the situation where everyone is united, she is already faintly feeling the path to becoming a legend. This feeling isn't too bad. There are many capable people in Sulphur Mountain City. When the news of the infamous demon army invading the city spreads, this city without an army doesn't scatter in all directions as expected. Instead, the powerful experts armed themselves and walked up the city walls. The ordinary citizens who don't have any strength organize themselves to take on the role of logistics. Everyone is doing their best under the same banner, using their own hands to protect their own home. Somehow, through the obstruction of time, I seem to see the future that isn't too far away. Every city is like this. Without an invading army, under the brilliance of the law, the citizens consciously stay away from evil and enjoy the pleasures of life to the fullest. When equality becomes a reality, people no longer label races as good or evil. War only appears in operas and epics. The youngsters start to criticize the war heroes of the past, lamenting that chaotic times create heroes and that peace buries their talents and that they are too unlucky. Hee, looks like I didn't waste these 100 years. Suddenly, I feel motivated again. Looks like living another 100 years isn't a problem. Looking at the busy figures on the city walls, I smile, a smile that comes from the bottom of my heart. As for Marguerite, she is still trying her best to persuade the ordinary citizens to leave the city walls. But from the looks of the citizens who are rushing up from both sides of the passageway, this attempt is destined to fail. Looking at the demons who are getting closer and closer, I laugh even louder. Looks like those fellows intend to use their numbers to win. What do you guys think? Competing with the undead emperor in an army duel? Your Highness, please let us teach these demon brats what a true army is and what a true pointless charge is. It was a tall, headless knight. The polo stick in his hand was as eye-catching as the bald head in his hand. At this moment, his cross-eyed eyes were fixed on the incubus warhorses. He had been wanting to change his mount for a long time. That's right, I have been spinning plates until my bones are sore. Finally, there's a chance to pick up a sword. Wah! There's also the 8-armed snake demon instructor. Leave them to me. I will kill whoever dares to snatch them from me. This is an 18-armed skeleton general. At this moment, he is trying his best to change the pole-holding plates into sharp swords. I can finally get rid of those darn color balls. Your Highness, let me go to battle. I am a general under your command, not a pet dog. The one who speaks pitifully is a skeleton dog whose 4 limbs are haphazardly attached. Looking at how he is covering his nose and acting pitiful, no one would think that he is the most fearsome head of the 7 deadly sins, wrath. Looking at the surroundings, the high-tier undead behind me are looking at me pitifully. Behind them, the blue war flag fluttering in the wind and the castle in the middle of the hurricane on it is obviously a design from a few hundred years ago, leaving a deep impression on me. All of you have taken out the Mist's war flag. Why are you still pretending to ask me? Oh, great, even my bones are rusting. Long live your Highness. Yes, it is your Highness and not His Majesty. The reason why they address me respectfully isn't because I am Emperor Yongye, but because I was the last prince of the Mist Country. On the other hand, they're the last remaining soldiers of the Mist Country. A bunch of fools who are unwilling to die, just like that, and are willing to follow me to the end of the world. My general, is our army ready? Of course, your Highness. Your army, be it 376 years ago, or 250 years ago, or is it 130 years ago? When did we let you down? The 24,662 defeated soldiers of the Red Hunting Hounds are grinding their teeth in peace, waiting for orders at any time. We can't wait to return to the battlefield. It is still that pet dog who died with grievances. The answer is exactly the same as the one he gave me in the undead playground 2 months ago. However, this time, it gives me a completely different feeling. The soul fire burning in the eyes of the undead seem to be repeating their determination to follow me to the end of the world no matter how many times they fail. I take a deep breath. The Roland sword by my waist is boiling hot. Could it be that the blood of the undead is boiling too? Luckily, the undead don't cry. Otherwise, it would be really embarrassing this time. At this moment, my old horse, Yonya, walks in front of me. It tilts its body and looks at me expectantly, as though waiting for me to get on it again. Yes, their determination has never changed. What am I waiting for? What am I hesitating for? What am I worried about? What am I afraid of? Yes, my knight, you have never disappointed me. Beat the war drums, blow the horn to charge, raise the mist's war flag high. My knight, charge with me. Chapter 61. In the extreme north is the snow country Mist. It is a bitterly cold land, but it is rich in minerals and magic crystals. The country is wealthy, its businesses flourish, its people are valiant, and its soldiers are valiant. In the east, it fights against the beastmen and elves, and in the west, it borders the demon abyss. It has been defending against the foreign races for nearly 1,000 years. Its royal family is rather old-fashioned, and every generation has had princes as their generals. However, in the last generation, there was an ominous twin prince. That was the sign of the country's demise. Following that, the foreign races invaded, and a natural disaster descended, and the country was on the verge of collapse. All that talk about civility is bullsh**t. Every time I look at the description of the Mist country in the history of the continent, I feel so disgusted that I want to vomit. What kind of history is that? It's obviously praising those victors. What kind of natural disaster is that? It's obviously a man-made disaster. Let me review the real history that I have collected and sorted out. AD 1518, 378 years ago, the beastmen and demons invaded at the same time, attempting to enter the rich human world to plunder wantonly. The entire Mist country was at war. According to tradition, the Eastern Front was led by Prince Roland, while the Western Front was led by Prince Cavendish. At that time, the two princes were only 12 years old. For years earlier, the tyrant Carlo III of the neighboring country, Saint Ferdia, came to power. He violently levied taxes, causing the people to have no way of making a living. In order to divert the internal conflict, he directed all his arrows at the rich and powerful Mist country, inciting conflicts at the borders. At this moment, seeing that the Mist country was in dire straits, he actually gathered the other two ambitious neighboring countries to invade the only safe southern front of the Mist country. The Mist country was on the brink of destruction. Under such dire circumstances, as a holy knight, Prince Roland returned to the headquarters of the Holy Church. In a joint conference of the various countries, he accused the invading countries, who disregarded basic morality, and requested for them to withdraw their troops immediately. However, Saint Ferdia, who was already prepared, made a false accusation against him, and he was even slandered as a heretic who colluded with the demons. Cardinal Benzuma, who had already accepted the bribe, declared Roland a heretic on the spot, detained him, and planned to publicly execute him. The various countries, who were moved by Saint Ferdia's private promise of the distribution of the magic crystal mines, silently allowed this to happen. If it wasn't for the fact that this matter went too far and caused the grassroots holy knight and priest to riot in protest, he might have been executed immediately. In the same year, Cavendish barged into the headquarters of the Holy Church alone, killing countless guards, and rescued the imprisoned Roland. Blood dyed the stairs of the Bine Cathedral red. Among the dead, there was the illegitimate son of the church, and the church son. The church, which Bine Church, and shocked. Kingdom. This was known as the Bine Massacre. The powerful holy knight and priests watched as everything happened. 2 years later, Pope St. Paul IX stepped down, and Benzuma was banished. Before this pope stepped down, the Bine Massacre was the fuse. The Mist country and its royal family were stripped of the Church of Holy Church, and the entire country was judged as a heretic country. The irony was that the country's eastern front had already been broken through by the Beastmen alliance, and the western front had fallen into a meat grinder with the demons. This heretic didn't even know where he was heading. In the spring of AD 1519, 377 years ago, the current Pope St. Paul IX declared a holy war against the heretics. The various countries, attracted by the huge benefits of magic crystal mines, special products of other races, and slave trade, actually responded to this ridiculous invitation to the holy war. However, the holy knight and priests, under the suppression of the higher-ups of the church, still maintained their helpless silence. In the same year, the entire Mist country was broken through. Under the summons of the royal family, the surviving citizens hid in the final capital, Definder, while the remaining troops retreated to defend the capital. AD 1520, 376 years ago, after being trapped for 15 months and running out of food and ammunition, the last capital of the human kingdom, the Mist country Definder, was conquered by the allied armies of the humans. Prince Roland led all the defending troops and died in the city. Prince Cavendish went missing. That year, the two princes were 14 years old. The heavily injured human allied army massacred the entire city to vent their anger. However, due to the long period of war, the resentment of the commoners and soldiers before they died caused Definder to surpass the level of a cursed land and directly transform into a land of death. The night knights who were already dead and the commoners who were unwilling to die, just like that, became the servants of death and began taking revenge on the living. Caught off guard, the allied army suffered heavy losses. In the end, the missing Prince Cavendish actually reappeared. This time, he really colluded with the demon army and took revenge on the entire human world and the Holy Church. This war lasted for 16 years. Countless kingdoms were destroyed, and the entire human world was turned into hell. In the end, the demon army was destroyed, and Cavendish was banished to hell by the Holy Church. Because of this, the Holy Church also carried out a comprehensive internal reform. After that, the royal families of the various countries that invaded the Mist country were completely destroyed in the Yongya calamity over 100 years ago. Some long-lived species even suspected that Emperor Yongya was the Prince Roland from back then. After all, the Mist war flag was far too conspicuous. However, under the Holy Church's full denial, the matter was left unsettled. After that, the Mist country became the dark history of the human world. If there was a need to mention it, there would only be that twisted and simple summary in the history books. In the last generation of the country, an ominous twin prince was born. That was the sign of the country's demise. Soon after, the foreign tribes invaded and a natural disaster descended. The country was about to be destroyed. Prince Cavendish colluded with the demons and led the wolves into the country, leading to the destruction of the country and the 17 neighboring countries. Destruction? The skeleton horse, under me, charged at the front. Looking at the Mist war flag waving in the air and the demon army in the distance, I felt as though I had returned to the era of war. Thus, I raised the broken sword of Roland. It was the symbol of the Mist country's authority. As long as I, Roland, am still around, the Mist country will not be destroyed. The Mist country will never be destroyed. Carrying the war flag and charging. Wasn't that the skeleton General Fade? As the head sword saint of the Mist country's Royal Knight Squad and later the Red Hunting Hounds, he had experienced countless battles over the centuries. His body was covered in wounds, but there wasn't a single wound on his back. The reason? As the flag protector, the war flag he carried on his back had never tilted, much less fallen. Charge, Knight. Flatten these darn demons. That was the plague tyrant Lich Kakana. It was no wonder that her charge sounded a little out of place. She wasn't a soldier at all. If it weren't for those things that happened, she would have become an alchemy merchant selling beauty products and nutrition products. Among these 24,602 defeated soldiers, there were soldiers who had died for the country, and there were also commoners who had gradually become soldiers. They came from all sorts of strange origins, and their composition was a mess. However, this group of unreliable old fellows was where my soul returned to. My people were behind me, my knight was by my side, and my kingdom was right here. Then, to talk about destruction, to talk about the destruction of the country, it was simply a joke. Return, our kingdom, our capital, soul whirl the infallible definder. Snowflakes fell leisurely, and it was snowing heavily. Time seemed to have returned to the winter of that year. The soul fire burned fiercely. After sacrificing everything, the first soul imprint to awaken was the already damaged ice treader. Snow drifted for tens of thousands of miles, making it impossible to see into the distance. The cliffs and the ground were all covered in snow. Thousands of miles were sealed in ice, and the north wind was biting cold. That was the winter of the north that we were familiar with. The demon army, which was mainly of the fire element, shivered in this sudden snowstorm. This feeling was far more dangerous than the forbidden spell from before. This was the most natural cold of the natural world, a cruel elimination that took away all life. While the demons were shivering, our undead army burst into laughter. The undead never feared the cold, not to mention these fellows who grew up in the snow country. Their fighting prowess in the snow was even greater. Yes, the soul world that I was so proud of was only a pure support world. It was meaningless without my army. However, as long as it was with my army, it was unquestionably the strongest in the world. And this snowy land was just the beginning. I am the lord of the undead, the prince of the mist country, the chief knight of the last night group. I vow to protect my people and my country. I vow to never bow down to invaders. I vow to change the fate of everything. I vow to allow all life to be born equal. That was the vow of me, the ancient prince of a fallen country. After that, it was the vow of the knight. Your Highness, I am your kindest knight. I vow to treat the weak kindly and help anyone who seeks my help. Slants, the kindest knight. He led the refugees to flee thousands of miles to Definder. Among the hundreds of refugees, the only one who died of hunger was him, the one who distributed the food. Your Highness, I am your strongest knight. I vow to stand up against rape bravely, not regretting even if I die 100 times. Comisia, the Titan wrestler that I was so proud of, the fearless attacker. Even when he was decapitated, he didn't stop his charge. Your Highness, I am your most righteous knight. I vow to stand up against all wrongs, regardless of where they come from. Fandirk, the holy knight who complained about the injustice at the Alliance Conference with me. I was saved by Cavendish while he was hanged in the Holy Light Square. Even until his death, he maintained the righteousness in his heart and didn't bow down to anyone, be it the secular church or the so-called faith in the Holy Light. Your Highness, I am your most useless knight. I vow to fight for the defenseless, but I can only use my body as a wall. Carlos, who dares to say that you are useless? In order to save the refugees, the exhausted, you used your body as a shield for the civilians, guarding the stone bridge alone without retreating. In the end, you died from 100 arrows. Your Highness, I am your most beloved knight. I vow to help my brother knight and use my body to protect their family. Lucas, you did it. Everyone's family is fine, but what makes everyone's heart ache is that the only one you didn't protect is the 15-year-old you. Your Highness, I am your most loyal knight. I vow to follow you till the end of time. Bastion, my son of wrath. From a pet dog, you walk step by step to become the leader of the Red Hunting Hounds. Some say that you relied on the powerful body that I bestowed upon you. Some mock you as a brainless dog that only knows loyalty. However, you smiled in the face of sarcasm and sarcasm, treating dog-like loyalty as the highest honor. Your claws and anger are always directed toward your enemies. Origin of Order. If such a knight isn't fit to be Valkyrie, then you are blind. If such a knight isn't fit to be called a hero, then those epic heroes are just people who deceive the world. Return and fight for me once more, my knight. Under the infusion of soul power, the soul imprint that symbolizes life revives once more. The shattered undead crown and the destructive sun of light light up once more. The powers of order and chaos clash with one another and fuse together. In the end, it turns into the light of law that changes everything. Under the call of my knight and I, a radiance flashes, and the entire world is replaced. A soul world replaces the real world. It was a boundless land of snow and the starry sky. Smoke and battle cries fill the air. This was the smell of battle, and at the very end of my vision, the city named Definder was currently burning. Definder was the home that I had always hoped for, but would never be able to reach. This is my soul world, the infallible Definder. Under its effect, we have returned to 376 years ago, that snowy night. At that moment, Definder still didn't fall. My knight and I were still fighting. My soul world descends, and reality is rewritten. My knight and I are no longer the unsightly appearance of bones and corpses. The war flag of the berserk wind flutters in the wind. Beneath it are lively faces and well-built bodies adorned with the emblem of the berserk wind. They're no longer ordinary undead. They're the incarnation of the will of the heroes after their deaths. They have been bestowed with an undying spiritual body by the origin of order and a beautiful name, Valkyrie. Valkyrie and undead are separated by a thin line. In my soul world, my loyal knight is the only Valkyrie who are qualified to be called heroes. At this moment, they possess several hundred years of strength and experience, surpassing the limitations of the incomplete physical bodies of undead and obtaining a perfect physical body that is most suitable for them. Their strength has increased by at least 3 times. Looking at such a change, the senseless demon army starts to tremble and retreat. Logically speaking, every single Valkyrie is at least a legend rank existence. They have no chance of winning. Demon Count? That's not enough. Send a Demon Prince or Grand Duke instead. The Valkyrie Knight has already started to sweep through the demon army. The maniacal laughter of Comisia, Bastion, and the others reverberates across the battlefield. The great sword Saint Fade, carrying a war flag on his back, dances among the demons. 18 sharp swords float around him, slaughtering them. Just him alone is like a sword formation. The ability to control swords granted by the body of Valkyrie makes it much easier for him than when he is in his undead state. At this moment, the raging Cerberus has already displayed its formation. Abao and Abi stand together, and in a distortion, they merge into one, revealing their true form. The Cerberus starts to chant the Song of Hell at the same time, and the gate to the plane of death is opened. That is the Demon King of Wrath, who represents the god of hell. Leading the charge, I have already entered into the depths of the demon army. At this moment, the mountain-like demon Cockagil is right in front of me. However, I smile delightedly. Waving the sword of Roland that has unknowingly become complete once again, I whip the reins, and the gigantic black warhorse, Eternal Night, whizzes forward and charges into the enemy formation. In this world, I am still the Holy Knight Prince Roland and not the incomplete Lich Roland. I am the chief knight of the Knight Troop. At this moment, Adam is already locked in battle with Cockagil. Seeing that I have come to support him, he is stunned for a moment before smiling. As expected, it is Big Brother Rollo. Why? Have you finally thought it through and decided to meet me one last time? Yes, although I have reverted to my past appearance, and my age isn't quite right. The shape of my face should be too similar to the Big Brother Rollo in his memories. It is time for me to verify my conjecture. Sigh. I originally intended to send you off with my past appearance after reviving completely. Let's talk nonsense later. There is someone waiting for me. So, do you need help? Of course, if we can gang up on each other, we won't fight one-on-one. Isn't this what you always say? Old enemy? Old friend? Old brother? I can't tell them apart anymore. Adam and I smile at each other. The Crimson Godsword and the Silver Longsword clash in midair, and sparks fly. In the next moment, we strike the Demon Count at the same time. Slash of the flowing water. Holy light. That enemy is worth fighting. Chapter 62. When the infallible Definder lands, the outcome of this war has been decided. In front of the fluttering Miss War flag, in front of the loyal knight who has transcended the river of time, when the horn to charge is blown, the massive demon army is nothing in front of me. I have always believed that in front of the fluttering Miss War flag, no matter if it is the demons or devils from the lower plane, or the angels and Valkyrie from the upper plane, none of them will be able to stop the charge of my army. We will be invincible in the world. Comisia, who is clearing the path for me, has already recovered to his peak. Beneath his gigantic war helmet are muscles. Stepping on flames, he is charging with all his might. The 2-4-meter-long dragon spears are his arrowheads. How many years has it been? As my strongest knight, he has always stood at the front lines of the army. Regardless of whether it is the powerful berserker demon or the gigantic demon hunter spider, they are as weak as little chicks in front of him, who was born with godly strength. Just a slight graze would cause the heavy gold essence dragon spear that normal people wouldn't be able to lift. He can easily lift 2 of them. In the past, this super vanguard would be unable to stop once he started charging. His only weakness was that his mount was too heavy and easily exhausted. But today, his undead mount had also stepped into the realm of heroic spirits. His fearless charge would no longer be stopped. On his right, the young Carlos, who is known as the most useless knight, is raising his shield high, blocking arrows and magic for him. At this moment, he is the whetstone that ensures the sharpness of the arrowhead of this charge. Moving city walls is the title that the young knight is proud of. In terms of his skills of shield bearer, Carlos is still the best in the entire Royal Knight group. Even when this noble soul is stuffed into the body of an ugly abomination undead, this tall young man is still silently using his body to block arrows and magic for his comrades. Even if he isn't skilled in offensive martial arts and magic, if there's really someone who looks down on him because he isn't skilled in offense, then he can buy a coffin. That is because those comrades who were saved by Lucas would unhesitatingly use their lives to protect the honor of the young knight. But seeing how the brown-haired boy easily blocked the magic and arrows, it seemed that he, who had regained the right to use the shield, was stronger than before. On the left of Comisia is old Sir Ferdinand. He is the swordsmanship instructor for me and Cavendish, the representative of the strongest swordsmanship in the Royal Knight Order. Furthermore, he is the father and teacher of the great sword Saint Ferdinand. The old general's silver hair was grizzled white. Facing the demon army in front of him, he didn't even use the sword technique he was most proficient in. He raised a silver bow on his back and fired. Squinting his eyes, he controlled the bowstring and shot 6 arrows at once. None of the demon officers he had chosen had survived. Regardless of strength or prestige, he is definitely the most qualified knight to answer my call. But venerable old Sir Ferdinand, are you still blaming yourself for not accomplishing your task? Please don't blame yourself. This really isn't your fault. No one could have expected that you, the undefeated knight, would exhaust your life force and die on the way to accomplishing your mission. Perhaps it's all my fault. If I had known that you, the one who drank 3 bowls of strong liquor before leaving, were forcing a smile on your body that was nearing the end of your lifespan, I wouldn't have sent you, who had already retired, into battle to carry out this mission that is destined to fail. At this moment, the old general seems to have endless fighting spirit waiting to be unleashed. As a light armored knight with weak defense, he would always charge forward carelessly. If the demons thought that they could make use of this opportunity to kill him, this old sword saint would use his sharp sword to impart the old saying that ginger is still spicier with age. The female holy knight behind Comisia, Lonnie and Fanderk, are a pair of siblings. However, they are constantly spreading holy light. The pure halo of holy light sweeps across the battlefield, healing their comrades and bringing about cleansing and destruction to the demons. The city wall destroyer Lucas, who wields a siege hammer, the knight of the long wind slants, who wields a spear as swift as the wind, the great sword Saint Fade, who is practically a sword saint from another world, the tyrant of plague Kakana, who throws alchemy reagents all over the place, and the last dragon knight Timir. Amidst the impassioned beating of the drums, countless legend-ranked knight gather under the mist's war flag. These brave warriors who have experienced countless battles view the battlefield as a joyous banquet, laughing as they fearlessly charge forward. Mist war flag? Spirit of Mist? What is that? Ridiculous. When I was young, I thought of myself as the main character of the Heavenly Mandate. How could I see the inferior knight spirit of the Aboriginals? Faced with me who spouted nonsense, my father only patted my shoulder and said, "You are the descendant of mist. You will understand." When the 12-year-old me was urgently summoned back from the Templar headquarters to lead the army, I thought that I would become a puppet general. After all, I spent most of my time training as a holy knight in the Templar headquarters. Furthermore, the relationship between the Holy Church and the Mist Kingdom isn't good. Furthermore, how could a 12-year-old me convince the masses? But in the end, be it the old generals or the young and energetic genius knight, all of them are completely obedient to my commands. Even if I make an occasional mistake, they would secretly make up for it. Furthermore, during the war, they continuously impart their best skills and various kinds of battle experience to me, as expected of the descendant of Mist. Every time I achieve something or lead a victory, they would say so gleefully, as though it was their own pride. And if I make a wrong judgment due to my lack of experience, they would say, "You are already doing well enough at your age." Using the love an elder has for a descendant, they would forgive me. Then, without any hesitation, they would use their blood, sweat, and even their lives to make up for the losses caused by my mistakes. Using one's life in exchange for growth is invaluable. Facing these adorable people, how can I not grow up quickly, as expected of the descendant of Mist? Slowly, this sentence of praise that made me feel uncomfortable became my greatest glory. The Mist Kingdom is constantly at war with the foreign tribes. This place is far away from the luxurious Central Plains. Although there are precious and rare minerals here, they have to be exchanged for all kinds of rations. Half of the year, the land is sealed in ice. No matter how I look at it, it doesn't seem like a good place. But for thousands of years, these adorable soldiers and civilians have wholeheartedly placed their trust in the descendants of the royal family, the Mist descendants, who protect this barren land. And the Mist royalty repaid their trust with fairness and sacrifice. Every generation, the princes would serve as generals, and every generation of the royalty would take pride in dying on the battlefield. I finally understand what the spirit of Mist is. It isn't some high and mighty doctrine. It is the mist in the valley, an invisible but tangible existence. It is like the fortress on the war flag that is on the verge of collapse in the raging winds. It is the last defense in a desperate situation. You are the descendant of Mist. You will understand. Indeed, Father, I understand. I really didn't expect that I would understand it so quickly. At this moment, we are still on the battlefield filled with ice and fire, and the Mist war flag is still fluttering in the wind. But our battle has yet to end. I'm the last descendant of the Mist, a pitiful worm who is unable to even protect his own country and citizens. I admit that we are just a bunch of lonely ghosts, a defeated army that yearns for the human world, but we are indeed the dead, but we are unwilling to die like this. We are indeed a defeated army, but we are unwilling to wallow in the past. There are still too many injustices and tragedies in this world. How can we close our eyes and sleep? Our bodies have yet to rot. Our arms are still able to wield weapons. We will mount our horses and charge forward, continuing our crusade against the ambitious tyrants who create war and chaos. The shouts of the knights are the conviction that led them to become undead, the conviction that led them to enter the Valkyrie. Under the fluttering Mist war flag, when I raised the Roland sacred sword and pointed forward, the knights used their faith and bravery to repay my trust. Charge! As dutiful cannon fodder, under the command of their master, the bloodthirsty beastman soldiers block in front of us. But right after that, they're like a praying mantis trying to stop a carriage, forcefully pushed over. The one who was beheaded by old Ferdinand in the midst of the chaos. Isn't it the beastman emperor who never regrets? He wasn't even stopped for a second. Perhaps, to an ambitious person who casually tramples on the lives of others for his own desires, a worthless death is the most suitable punishment. When the gigantic ancient hell dragon is forcefully commanded by its master to block the charge, this familiar giant dragon has already met her destined opponent. "Molly, you're so embarrassing." Before she could dive down to rescue her, the suddenly descending Ein Mises pounces on her, sending her tumbling in midair. That's right, This Inferno dragon was the former Dragon Queen Molly. Due to that unexpected war, she survived as a sacrifice. Then, facing the demon Earl, she chose to transform into a demon dragon without any dignity. Inferno dragon. The two ancient dragons are tearing at each other and roaring furiously in midair. The Inferno dragon's physical strength is obviously much stronger than the giant dragons of the main plane. However, the one who has the complete advantage is the smaller and younger Einmesis. Where's the dignity of the dragons that you speak of? Have you eaten them all? I can't bear to see such an ugly sight. Die. The infuriated Einmesis gives up on the last bit of mercy and hope in her heart. For the first time in her history, she mercilessly attacks Molly. Einmesis, the dual-element master, displayed her deep understanding of magic. She didn't need to chant any incantations or make any hand gestures. The dragon tribe's bloodline was filled with magic. She only needed to flap her wings and focus her gaze. Wind and fire magic was formed continuously. While the wind increases her speed, it also interferes with Molly's flight. On the other hand, the fire is ever-changing. Sometimes it turns into smoke to block one's vision, and sometimes it suddenly explodes in front of the opponent's eyes, shattering their scales. Every attack of Einmesis carries elemental damage. The more she fights, the colder her heart becomes, and she realizes that she has no chance of winning. Thus, her opportunistic attitude kicks in once again. Without any hesitation, she abandons the boss she just acknowledged and flees without any hesitation. The rapid retreat of the two former autarchs caused a ripple in the battle, and the demon army was pushed back by the charge of the Einherjars. Not far away, the battle between the 100-meter-tall demon and Adam was right in front of them, and victory was right in front of them. As long as we get rid of the demon army leader, who is the summoner, these low-tier demons will naturally be banished back to the bottomless abyss. The war-loving demons cherish their own lives. In the face of the unstoppable assault, they have already started to disperse. But before we arrive, a gigantic figure is the first to be unable to restrain its rage. That gigantic black figure jumps up fiercely. Even though it is a 60-70-meter-tall giant beast, it should be slow and sluggish. Instead, it is as agile as a cheetah. It leaps past the few flame balers who are acting as guards and collides violently with the gigantic demon count. That is the Red Hunting Hound's army leader, demonic Voidhound Bastion. The demon lord that was as huge as a mountain landed on all fours, and its upper limbs were demon halberds. Its upper body was a bit like a sheep, and its lower body looked like an incomparably huge lizard. And Batet, who was biting with his 3 heads, directly bit off one of his arms. Oh, filthy worm. The gigantic 3-headed Hellhound Bastion. In our knight order, the position of this army leader is never that of a knight. It is a war beast and siege machine. Usually, when the vanguard tore apart the enemy's formation, this gigantic black war beast would jump into the enemy's formation and start to create fatal chaos. Then, the crack would be completely torn apart, becoming an irreparable fatal wound. The reason why it is described as gigantic and not as a number is because its size is never fixed. The middle head of Bastion is the incarnation of rage. It doesn't have a name and doesn't have any rationality. However, it is responsible for using its claws and teeth to tear its opponents apart. When its rage reaches its peak, it would grow even larger due to its rage. To a war beast, a larger size represents an irresistible power, just like how rage is endless. As long as Bastion reverts to his original form and enters the battlefield, as the battle progresses, his rage and enlargement would be endless. There was once a time where, after a bitter battle of 2 days and 2 nights, the primordial gold dragon, who once suppressed our army, was trampled to death by the enraged Bastion. Not to mention how many times he destroyed the city walls and gates with his stomp. Usually, he would split into 2 different bodies and maintain his main consciousness in the pitiful form of a skeleton dog, just to suppress his boundless rage. If that was the case, he wouldn't be the boss of the 4 heavenly kings, my most trusted and strongest general. The head in the middle, which acted purely on instinct, would only listen to the commands of the other two heads. The head on the left was the usual Bao, subconsciousness, whose gentle voice carried the command of death. The head on the right was Bastion's main consciousness. Bastion, who had a wide field of vision, would let out angry roars from time to time, directing the movements of the entire army. According to the legends, the three-headed hellhound is the gatekeeper of the Hades. I have only designed a single ability for this Lord of Rage, Soul World Hellgate. The three-headed hellhound roars at the same time, and the illusory image of the Hell Gate flickers behind them. When Bao opens the left gate, an undead ally who had just died in battle and whose soul is still intact will be revived. When Bastion opens the right gate, the aura of death will surge out, and the lives in the surroundings will swiftly die. Of course, there's a price to pay for reviving. When the right gate brings away 10, only the left gate brings back 1. When both gates are opened at the same time, endless destruction will follow. At this moment, Bastion has already charged into the midst of the demon army. In an instant, Adam, who is using his flame wings to tangle with Cockajil, is reduced to a spectator. When Bastion and Cockajil are engaged in a physical battle, the gate of death is already opened. Endless aura of death rushes out from the Hades, and Cockajil feels himself getting weaker and weaker. Even the Baylor demon, who is strong enough to fight against a dragon, falls helplessly on the way to the rescue. Perhaps, as the head of the 7 deadly sins, Bastion's individual fighting prowess isn't comparable to Gluttony's Audang. However, if it is an army battle, Bastion, who is the reviver, commander, and war machine, is still my strongest general. If he can gang up on me, never fight one-on-one. This is indeed what I have said before, and it is also the most basic strategy of war, gathering the superior forces to take down the weaker forces of the enemy. At this moment, when the arm holding the hell halberd and throat are bitten by Bastion and the god sword of the man in the sky chases after the vitals of the demon lord, the lone demon noble is unable to move and is destined to become a living target of the army's assault. In front of the absolute army, formed by 24,620 Valkyrie, no matter how strong the individual strength of the demon noble is, he will only end up being crushed. However, facing a hopeless situation, the furious demon activates his talent that he can only use once a day. Soul Extraction Curse. That is a powerful curse created by the combination of a demon lord and the semi-god equipment Cockajil's soul-burning lamp. The target that is attacked by this curse will be forcefully extracted from their soul body. How can the soul body that has escaped the protection of the physical body resist the attraction of the soul-burning lamp? However, it is a pity that he chose the wrong target. The gigantic finger points towards me, and the black runes of the curse spread across his body like a spiderweb. However, in the next second, everything calms down. Indeed, if the summoner of the soul world were to die, the soul world would disappear, and the royal knight would be reduced to their original form as an undead knight. Thus, using his strongest talent to kill me in an instant is indeed the correct choice in terms of strategy. However, even though I look like a living person, I am actually a dead person. Putting aside how to extract a soul from a dead person, even the river Styx, who has the strongest ability to absorb and devour souls, is unable to do anything to my soul. What does this semi-god equipment amount to? Charge! The emperor that they are loyal to is suddenly attacked, causing the knights to be enraged. Even without my orders, they wouldn't stop their charge. Under the buff of the holy light in a large area, the silver bow, carrying the holy light that is the nemesis of demons, turns into a rain of arrows that covers the sky. The tip of the arrow is filled with the nemesis of demons, the power of holy light. Like a corrosive poison that targets living beings, the wound that it touches expands rapidly. The area around the wound starts to blister and explode. Perhaps it might not be able to deal much damage to the gigantic demon count, but it is definitely painful. Ah, darn little worm. The demon count flies into a rage and flings the gigantic Batet into the air. His remaining hand continues to summon destructive, forbidden spell. However, my knights won't sit idly by and watch as the demon count displays his might. When the Valkyrie mages start to display their might, countless magic counters forcefully cause the demon count's fire meteor rain forbidden spell to fail time and time again. In the end, it turns into a small flame in the palm of his hand. This is the helplessness of a great mage who doesn't have a meat shield. Facing the magic suppression of a group of mages, to be able to release a small flame shows that his foundations are strong enough. When Kamigia first smashes a terrifying hole in the tower-like leg, the knights are like a group of man-eating ants that devour a giant, creating terrifying wounds on the body of the demon count. When Adam takes the opportunity to cast the blessing of the phoenix into Kakajil's eyes, causing him to wail in agony and turning him into a one-eyed dragon, Batek grows stronger once again and presses Kakajil to the ground. At this moment, everyone knows that the powerful demon count is finished. It can't be said that Kakajil isn't strong, but this is a war and not a duel. No matter how strong an individual is, there is a limit to it. He rolls on the ground in pain and uses the demon war halberd to hit the little worm on his body. However, this is no different from suicide. The corrosive blood of the demon flows out continuously, and due to the excessive corrosion, the surrounding land starts to turn into scorched earth. Very quickly, when his head is chopped off, the demon Count Kakajil finally falls, and his humongous body starts to turn into dust. This time, he descended with his true body. Even if he can revive, he has to start from the lowest tier of inferior demons. Following the fall of the summoner, the demons disappear one by one. They are banished back to their own dimension. This time, they didn't manage to harvest many souls. After the exhaustion of going back and forth, the losses can't be recovered even after a few hundred years. Victory! When the horn that represents victory is blown, not only on the battlefield, even Sulphur Mountain City, not too far away, is filled with a sea of joy. Regardless of whether they knew each other before or not, the citizens hugged each other and gave their blessings, celebrating their survival from the calamity. But my troubles have just started. Clang! The Crimson God sword and the silver sacred sword clashes fiercely against each other. Even though it is their lord who was attacked, the Valkyrie Knights look on as though they are watching a show. Some of them even start to make bets while giggling. They're just short of taking out their stools and melon seeds to watch the battle. Adam's foolish face is right in front of them. The angry roar that is squeezed out from the gaps of his teeth is filled with deep resentment. Roland, no, Brother Rollo, perhaps it is time for us to settle our old debts. Chapter 63. Big Brother, your swordsmanship is incredible. Can you teach me? My name is Adam. I come from White Rock Village. My goal is to become a hero, then marry Lisa as my wife, then go back to the village to show off to everyone. Right? I also want to be a rich man, just like that old Peter next door, who can collect rent without doing any work. Smoking a pipe while watching others work. That year, that foolish young man stood in front of me. He didn't even have a bronze rank, but he boasted shamelessly that he wanted to become a hero. Where did his confidence come from? Slow pace, weak foundation, no special bloodline, low comprehension ability. If not for the occasional flash of inspiration and spiritual energy, there is simply nothing good about him. In this life, he will reach the peak of silver rank. Since I had nothing to do anyway, I tried to train this swordsman who had low aptitude. But very quickly, I lost interest. Just a commoner, not even qualified to be cannon fodder. How could I, the good big brother of a holy knight, say such words? Good, ambitious, come, follow the training plan that I have arranged for you. As long as you work hard to complete it, you will definitely become a great hero. Carry a weight of 50 kilograms, run 50 kilometers, swing your sword forward 20,000 times a day. Simple, simple. Afraid that I wouldn't be willing to teach him, Adam patted his chest loudly. I didn't lie. That was indeed the entry training for the rookies of the Mist Country's Royal Knight Corps. Just that, I casually increased the number by nearly 10 times. A rookie would need more than an hour to swing his sword 1,000 times, and the efficiency of continuous training would be even lower. When one's muscles reach their limits, every additional swing would be a torture to the muscles of the entire body. In my expectation, he would soon come complaining about not being able to complete the training with his sore arms. At that time, I would say, "You're too lousy. All right, I'll lower my requirements." At the same time, I would adjust according to the training's completion. But what I didn't expect was that this slow-witted young man was worried that he wouldn't be able to complete the training. Thus, he sneaked out at 3 a.m. and only returned at 4 a.m. the next day. "Big brother, I completed it. You can check. I even chopped down that tree by the river. Is there a need to check?" His tattered appearance, his hands full of bloody blisters. For the first time, I felt that this fool is a little cute. Didn't he realize I was teasing him? Looking at his injured muscles, it seems like he didn't take off his weights when he was practicing. His stupidity makes me speechless. Looking at the red-haired youth who was sleeping soundly on the table after taking out some dry rations, I decided to teach him seriously. Thus, after Adam laid on the bed numbly for an entire day and felt that he would have to lie on the bed for another 3 days, he cried and took out his food money for the next month to ask a priest to treat him. Let's adjust the training plan. Run 2 5-kilometer warm-up runs every day and swing the sword 2,000 times. I'll teach you real swordsmanship when your basic abilities are up. As I said so, the youth readily agreed. But this time, he left at 2 in the morning and came back at midnight. Hee, big brother Rolo, I finished today's training mission before midnight. There was no need to reduce the training mission. I know I'm stupid, but as long as I work hard, I can definitely do it. After reporting to me with a face full of excitement, the young man fell to the ground. Once again, my understanding of idiots was refreshed. Thus, on the 3rd day, I secretly followed him out. Looking at the stupid young man, regretting waking up at 4 in the morning, he first hammered his head with all his might. Then, realizing that he was wasting time, he hurriedly got up and swung his sword with all his might. Looking at the swordsmanship that had no technique to speak of, the arm that was torn by the recoil, looking at him gritting his teeth to hold on, I suddenly felt that I have been slacking recently. It seems that I have lowered my expectations for myself recently. Then, let's train the basics. Let's start with 30,000 swords. That night, I returned home an hour earlier than Adam. When I was eating, my hands were trembling as I held the bowl. Of course, even so, I was much better than Adam, who fell asleep at the entrance. That night, I dragged Adam, who was sleeping on the street, in and woke him up with a bucket of cold water. I threw all the basic techniques of holding and swinging the sword to him. Thus, on the 2nd day, I realized that other than his hard work, his intuition and comprehension of the sword are actually not bad. It's just that no one was willing to teach this country bumpkin previously. Let's continue with 40,000 swords today. I have to finish it within 2 hours before this idiot finishes. When I officially started teaching him, I realized that I was also practicing the basics of swinging the sword. He silently added more practice to himself, determined that he wouldn't stop if he didn't surpass me. How could I be surpassed by Adam? My sword swinging speed is already much faster than his, my stamina is also better than his, and I can use holy light to recover. As long as we practice for the same amount of time, I will definitely swing the sword more times. Thus, he loses every single time. But if I continue to use the same method, I won't be able to catch up to him in my entire life. Very quickly, he, who wasn't very smart, came to a conclusion. Thus, he started to research on his swordsmanship. How to hold the sword for a straight slash. How to hold the sword for a horizontal slash. How to avoid the influence of wind pressure to increase the speed of the sword. I have to say, once an idiot puts in a lot of effort towards a goal, that kind of dedicated research can really produce results. Practice, experiment, ponder, revise, practice, experiment. The slow swordsman has already walked his own path. All I can teach is the experience and high-level skills of others. But if he can do it, why can't I do it too? Thus, silently, my swordsmanship also evolved. All right, since it's about time, let's compete on willpower. After that, it was the training goal to improve my dochi style. 20,000 swords a day. That was just an appetizer before breakfast. While walking, I would swing my sword to slash imaginary enemies in the air, slash leaves in the forest, slash rocks in the mountains, slash the sea. In the end, I didn't even know how many times I swung my sword every day. Unknowingly, the speed of my sword became so fast that normal people couldn't even see it clearly. Indeed, in the eyes of outsiders, our swordsmen all came from the so-called way of the sword. While there were no tricks, it was fast, accurate, and vicious. But, in reality, it was only because everyone was using the accumulation of the basics. If it wasn't fast, accurate, and vicious, how could it be possible to complete the training plan in time for dinner? What was laughable was that the stupid Adam was later called a genius swordsman by the world. He was probably born to be stupid. After that, in order to make up for his lack of bloodline and special abilities, after helping Adam obtain the inheritance of the phoenix, we hunted the phoenix for him and obtained the phoenix's heart. Now, 100 years have passed. After experiencing countless heart-wrenching battles and suffering, a young man from the countryside has completed his dream of becoming a hero and even stood at the peak of the human race. But not too long ago, he told me that he was tired and that he intended to throw everything aside and sleep, never to wake up again. Just thinking about this made me furious. Idiot. Coward. A woman turned you into such a wretched state. What about your goals and dreams? What about your sword? What about the sword that you spent so many years practicing? Is it that indifferent? Tell me, great hero. I could only understand the fatigue that came from the bottom of my heart. It often troubled me, making me wish that I could sleep forever. But how could I accept such a reality? The sacred sword Roland became dim, and the holy light had long faded. However, the raging willpower made the light of the soul shine even brighter. Dang! The two swords clashed. There wasn't a single spark on the crimson red god sword. Facing my questioning, Adam gritted his teeth and roared angrily. What do you know? No matter how hard I tried, Lisa was always looking at you. Even when she died on my arm, she was still muttering your name. Do you know this kind of heart-wrenching feeling? Flipping to the side, I dodged Adam's slash. For some reason, I glanced in that direction. At that moment, Marguerite lowered her head, not wanting to look at us. But I couldn't be at ease. The floor was wet, and it was obvious that she was crying silently. Thus, my rage burned even more. Lisa, Lisa, it's Lisa. You've been nagging for 100 years. A woman who died 100 years ago, is it worth it? Is a dead person so perfect in your eyes? What about the living? Marguerite sacrificed so much for you. What do you intend to do? My angry roar stunned Adam for a moment before he roared back, even louder. I don't know. I wasn't smart in the first place. Aren't you the ones in charge of using your brains? You better give me an idea. Acting dumb just because you couldn't face it? Messing around just because you were being chased? Adam's unreasonable behavior made me laugh. And so, in the blink of an eye, 100 years have passed. My lover has passed away. Only I exist. Flowers bloom and wither, year after year. I hope to die of old age amidst wine and flowers, reminiscing about the past. Instantly, Adam was stunned. Wasn't that his own profound chant? Could it be flowing water time slash? Flowing water time slash. Light shone. Time was merciless. The sword light was like a flowing stream. Fallen leaves floated on it. The stream was slow and clear, but 100 years felt like it had passed. The sword light flashed, and the exact same sword techniques profound clashed. Both of us walked out from the illusion and stared at each other angrily. Sighing over the passing of a beauty, regretting that time was merciless. In terms of what I had lost much more than that idiot. He only lost a crush, but I couldn't even remember if I had loved before. If Adam could grasp the profound of the sword technique, why couldn't I grasp it too? Such a simple sword technique is worthy of being called profound. I learned at the moment I saw it. Huh, is that something to be proud of? The emotion that drives this profound is sorrow. You learn at the moment you learn it? This can only mean that you are much more pitiful than me. As expected, the one I hated the most was Adam. It was only at times like this that his instincts were sharp. Good things never come true, but bad things do. Your instincts are still as annoying as ever. Then take a look at this. The Roland sacred sword was placed in front of me. This time, my eyes were as black as ink, and all the light was devoured by the blade. Suffering from the early death of a young man, suffering from the loss of an orphan, suffering from the betrayal of a brother, suffering from the passing of his lover, suffering from the destruction of his country, suffering from the loss of his family and friends, suffering from the suffering of all life. Secret swords, 7 bitter sword. The silver long sword moved on its own, the exact opposite of the eye-catching slash of flowing water. The dim sword light made one instinctively avert their gaze. Yet, unknowingly, it split into 7, as though an inescapable sorrow and life, quietly wrapping around one's body. This is the profound swordsmanship that I comprehended after going into seclusion for half a month after seeing Adam's slash of flowing water. He was able to comprehend the profound from Eastern philosophy in life. So as an Eastern, there is no reason for me to be unable to do the same. Dang! Even so, this newly formed profound sword was still blocked by the god sword that was swung at high speed. I am certain now that you are much more pitiful than me. You really deserve sympathy. Even though he was saying words of sympathy, this ungrateful man smiled gleefully, as though he had won something. You idiot! Today, I will teach you a good lesson. Why am I the big brother, and you are just the little brother? Hee. Isn't it enough for a holy knight to just use holy light? You want to use swordsmanship to challenge this pure warrior's swordsmanship genius. Dream on. The crimson god sword and the silver holy sword clashed continuously as we happily fought against each other. All kinds of sorrowful, profound swordsmanship were released one after another, mocking the other party's weakness continuously. However, at the same time, we laughed happily. It has been many years since we had such happy days. I am the indestructible Valkyrie body, while the current Adam is truly an indestructible body. This duel is destined to be a long one. Not far away, looking at the two men who had forgotten everything and laughed loudly, the usually calm Marguerite clenched her teeth, her face filled with hatred. Adam, Roland, the two of you said that adults are selfish. From what I see, it should be that all men are selfish. And remember, in the future, you definitely can't find a lover like these two bastards. Even if you fall in love, you must break up immediately. And nodded her head, not really understanding, but she looked at her Uncle Bones and Godfather fighting against each other worriedly. So Uncle Bones is so cute. Somehow, recalling the promise that her godfather told her, the young lady blushed. It seems like Marguerite's warning was in vain. Is this really a swordsmanship? The profound swordsmanship of a different world that we have never seen before made fade, and the rest look at this duel with a look of infatuation. These profound swordsmanship pursues emotions and realms. Even though it is a swordsmanship, it has already reached the depths of the rules that magic is unable to touch. It is completely different from a mainstream swordsmanship of this world that pursues power and destructiveness. This is equivalent to opening a brand new door for these swordsmen. Since the outcome of the duel has been decided, other than a small number of spectators, the rest of the Scarlet Hunter group disbanded. Their target is the restaurants and some other places in the city. We can't waste the time that we have with our physical bodies. We have to make full use of every second. At this moment, I was still racking my brains on how to defeat this bastard who refused to fall. But suddenly, his expression changes. Flames suddenly erupt from his back, turning the surroundings into a sea of fire. Looks like it's time. The helpless Adam smiles bitterly. Recently, the constant battles made his physical body instinctively request for more power from the heart of the Phoenix. Looks like it is already the final moment. His physical body, which had already reached its limit, is finally unable to restrain the heart of the Phoenix. Looking at this situation, I clench my teeth, intending to fulfill the final promise. However, Adam suddenly goes back on his words. No, Roland, I suddenly feel that since you are in a worse state than me, I shouldn't make you feel worse. It is better for me to do it myself. Adam, who is in flames, strikes his left chest with his right hand. After blood and flesh splatters, a fiery red object is dug out. Heart of the Phoenix. Yes, the so-called Heart of the Phoenix isn't the name of a treasure, nor is it an adjective. It is the heart of a phoenix that is beating slightly. Adam, who lost his heart, didn't die immediately. Instead, he smiles as he looks at the pink heart in his hand. Back then, for this item, we spent more than 2 years chasing and hunting the phoenix. Even though Little Red risked exposing her identity to use her full strength, we still ended up lying in the church for more than a month. Actually, I have been regretting back then. I regretted accepting the inheritance of the phoenix, causing everyone to almost be wiped out. After looking at it one last time, he casually tosses the most precious treasure in the world, the heart of the phoenix, to me. In the end, I still have to trouble you. I'm sorry, Big Brother Roland. I have troubled you too much in this life. Looks like I won't be able to see the golden age of your dreams. However, Big Brother, you are so powerful. Nothing can stop you. Even without me, you will definitely succeed. Time passes. After 100 years, at the last moment, he calls me Big Brother again, as though we were adventuring together in the past. Looking at this heartless person with a huge hole in his chest, looking at this little brother who seems to be regretting not being able to see the world of my dreams. What else can I say? In the end, Adam can't take it anymore. He leans against the wall and collapses. Looking at him, I don't know what to say. In the end, I can no longer suppress the feeling that I have never felt before. I sob speechlessly. Shadan, I just want you to see that without all of you here, my dream is meaningless. Idiot, Big Brother is begging you. Live on. That's right. If the world of peace really comes, and I'm alone in this world, what's the point? The tears of the deceased drip onto Adam's face. However, he still has that silly smile on his face. Big Brother, after so many years, this is the first time I have seen you cry, right? Hee, should I be proud? However, I am really tired. I have done all that I wanted to do in this life. I'm already satisfied. Please let me rest. In the midst of my confusion, Little Red also descends. The blue figure also walks in. Even though I can't see him clearly, I can still hear his sobbing. Selfish. Bastard. Don't you ever consider other people's feelings. Looking at the young lady with tears in her eyes, Adam opens his mouth as though he wants to say something. However, in the end, it turns into a powerless apology. I'm sorry, Marguerite. I am really sorry. If there is an afterlife, I will definitely marry you. I have an urge to turn Adam into an undead or Valkyrie without hesitation. However, Adam seems to see through my thoughts as he struggles to shake his head at me. Bastard, your intuition is the sharpest at times like this. I really can't bear to witness Adam's final farewell. Turning my body, I'm stunned by the unfamiliar yet familiar figure in front of me. In the end, I still want to see Lisa. At least, give me a chance to confess. This is the final farewell that Adam doesn't dare to say out loud in fear of hurting Marguerite. 100 years have passed. The face of a young lady whom he has a crush on in his memory is already a blur, not to mention love. Perhaps, even Adam himself knows that he is already stuck in a dead end, trapped in the past by his past memories. However, he really can't take that step forward. All right, go ahead. I'm listening. That is a familiar voice, a voice that echoes countless times in his dreams. Adam widens his eyes in disbelief. Lisa. Yes, that is the great thief Lisa. She is wearing a light leather armor and tall leather boots. Her waist is filled with all kinds of knives and thieves' tools. But in our eyes, the characteristics of the demon hidden by the illusion are so obvious. That is obviously Eliza, who is dressed as Lisa. But how does she know Lisa's habits? Why are you all looking at me so strangely? Right, Big Brother Rolo, thank you. You pulled my soul out from the river Styx in time. After breaking through to legend and awakening my true demon name, my memories have all recovered. Could it be that a miracle really happened? Demon nobles do recall the memories of their past lives, but it is as though they are looking at someone else's life. However, Eliza isn't a complete demon. In an instant, too many possibilities appear in my mind at the same time, turning my head into mush. I, even though the lover of my dreams is right in front of me, I can't say the words "I like you." Somehow, my eyes are attracted to the crying Marguerite. The beauty who was as cold as ice in the past is now in tears. She, who loves cleanliness, is already covered in mud, but she doesn't care about it as she sits on the floor, crying softly. Why are you looking at big Sister Marguerite? Could it be that the target of your confession isn't me, but her? The death of the person he loves in his arms is Adam's lifelong regret. Furthermore, as his memories continue to beautify the dead, it becomes a dead knot. No one has a heart of stone. Perhaps he has already been conquered by the 100 years of dedication of the cold-faced and warm-hearted Saint Lady, just that he used Lisa as an excuse to deny it. At this moment, Lisa has appeared in front of him. It is impossible for him to escape. He doesn't even know what kind of feelings he has for Marguerite. In terms of feelings, with the beautification of memories and the grudges of the past, the dead are forever undefeatable. At this moment, the many years of emotional entanglement, this invisible dead knot, is finally being undone under the miracle of the resurrection of the dead. All right, even if you were to confess to me, my answer would still be I'm sorry. You are a good person. The one I like is Big Brother Rollo. Right, Dumbo, I have started dating Big Brother Rollo. If you don't believe me, you can ask him. Me? Just when I am stunned, Eliza's words ring in my ears. Master, do you still remember the condition? Agree to my confession. That is the condition. This familiar form of address confirms that the one in front of me is still Eliza. At the same time, I unknowingly heaved a sigh of relief. After hesitating for a moment, I can only nod my head. We have just started dating. I didn't have the time to tell you. Wait, if the two of you start dating and I die for another man's woman for no reason, wouldn't I become a huge joke? Hey, you must be joking with me. Adam's sharp instincts become sharp when it isn't needed. On the other hand, Marguerite, who notices the changes, is overjoyed. She hurriedly casts her spell to stop the time of Adam's physical body so that he doesn't die on the spot. Looking at this situation, I understand in an instant. Then I smile. All right, then you should continue to live on. I have a few options here. For example, join my army? No, it is no, and not I don't want to live on. In an instant, joy appears on our faces. From how Adam keeps sneaking glances at Marguerite, I can vaguely guess that it isn't Lisa's appearance that made him change his mind. Rather, it is Lisa's appearance that made him unable to continue to be a coward, forcing him to face Marguerite's feelings. Thus, it is natural that he doesn't want to die anymore. All right, I still have a dozen options here. Get rid of those who are trying to scam me. I still have to be someone else's dog. I don't want to fight for those hypocritical gods. Fisk, then there is only one option left. I will unload the Titan's heart from the Roland now. 2, and add it to the Titan's heart that I got from the auction, the outer shell of the Titan's heart that I stole previously. I will assemble a new artificial Titan's heart for you. Have you seen the rebirth of a phoenix in 500 years or the death of a Titan? Your physical body will turn into a Titan very quickly. But if that is the case, your attribute will change from fire to lightning. The Titan's heart is still far from being comparable to the Phoenix's heart. Furthermore, the Phoenix's flame will turn into Titan's lightning. Your strength will definitely fall in a short period of time. Are you willing to do it? Sure. Hurry up and do it. I have had enough of the empty feeling in my body. It feels terrible. Somehow, looking at this stubborn fellow finally getting enlightened, we heave a sigh of relief at the same time. Ecstasy filled our hearts, and we smiled at each other. But it was a pity that the Roland's sacred sword at my waist was slowly shrinking, reminding me that time is running out. Fortunately, Cockajil did a good deed and created a permanent space distortion, allowing Little Red to retrieve the Titan's heart and Titan's core from Vance City very quickly. In the past, I personally performed the transplant surgery, making it even smoother this time. Very quickly, when everyone was surrounding Adam, and who just finished their surgery, I quietly left. Adam's troubles are finally resolved. Now, it is time for me to fulfill my long-cherished wish. Returning back to Sulphur Mountain City Court, Eliza is already waiting there. The original codex is already in her hands. All right, let us shock the world here. It is about time for a true god to appear in the law faction. Chapter 64. In the ice-cold courtroom, on top of the large office table where the gavel and documents were usually piled up, there was a steaming hot meal. As for me, I was just like my companions, seizing the time to enjoy the pleasures of the flesh with Eliza. All right, don't get the wrong idea. It's just a meal. Can you sympathize with my pitiful old bones that haven't enjoyed the taste of food for more than 100 years? There weren't many dishes: roasted sausages, buttered bread, fruit salad, vegetable soup, and the taste couldn't compare to the palace delicacies in my memory. It was obvious that they were rushed by an additional restaurant. However, to a hungry ghost that hadn't eaten for 100 years, even a hard black bread would be a palace delicacy. Cough, cough. I ate in a hurry and accidentally choked. I hurriedly clutched my neck and slammed the table with all my might, signaling Eliza to hurry and save me. You're already so big, yet you're still acting like a child. Ha, you really are a child now. Don't you have anything else to say? Eliza helped me pat my back while pouring tea for me, who accidentally choked on my food. Cough. I was almost killed by a cucumber. If I really died from sliced cucumber, everyone would probably laugh themselves to death. Can the dead die again? Of course. How can I be considered the final boss if I don't die dozens of times? Others might not know, but it wouldn't be difficult for me to die a dozen more times. The earlier you die, the earlier you reincarnate. After eating, let's go on our way. Hey, even criminals on the death row have their last feast. Isn't it too early to clear the dishes? Is there such a rule? Oh, there really isn't. I forgot to add it. Remember to tell Lilith to bring it up in the next legislative meeting. Even if the judiciary is heartless, the law enforcers still have some compassion. Give the criminals on the death row appropriate treatment. This bit of humanity still has to be shown. You go tell her yourself. I'm afraid it's going to be difficult. There's not enough time. Then leave a note. Looking at this displeased young girl, I knew that with her temper, she wouldn't agree no matter what. Helpless, I could only take out a pen and write a note on the judge's desk. All right. Thank you for your hospitality. After eating and drinking to my heart's content, I nodded in satisfaction. It's just some cheap goods from the tavern. There wasn't enough time, so there wasn't enough time. Eliza shook her head, her eyes filled with regret and hesitation. Yes, it would be great if you made it yourself. I don't know how to cook. If I really cook, you'll have to eat them all. Indeed, Eliza, who was good at housework, was obviously a little off in this aspect. Perhaps it was because of her demonic bloodline that caused her taste to be strange. The food she made was extremely heavy. Beets were spicy, and spicy vegetables were poisonous. Perhaps it wasn't poisonous, but her tongue was swollen like a sausage. It was worse than being poisoned. But at this moment, I heaved a sigh of relief. Lisa is truly an all-round housekeeper. Her culinary skills far surpass that of a normal chef. But in the end, I still couldn't help but ask, is it Eliza? Yes, Eliza, not Lisa. That's just a bluff. After letting out a sigh of relief, I smiled too. I think Adam will figure it out soon. So what? Didn't you say that unrequited love would only last for 36 days? This has lasted for more than 100 years just to avoid it. What he needs is to cut off the reason to avoid it and face the truth. Now that he has recognized his current feelings, even if he were to figure it out in the future, he would probably only act dumb. Don't men know how to act dumb? Saying till the end, Eliza stared at me. She even emphasized, don't men know how to act dumb. It was obvious that she was hinting at something. Adam is really dumb and not acting dumb. All right, a certain man was innocently shot at and was trying his best to act dumb, under the glare of a certain woman. All right, I'm sorry. In the end, unable to stand the condemning glare, a certain man lowered his head and apologized helplessly. What I need now isn't an apology. I can only give an apology. Perhaps it wasn't just Adam who was running away. Thinking about what I was going to face, I wasn't confident enough. Even though I knew that what Eliza wanted was a promise, I didn't dare to give it to her. Fortunately, I didn't expect Rock to be enlightened. I was already prepared for it. I gritted my teeth and muttered softly, but I couldn't hear it. All right, since I am full, it's time to be on my way. Treating the glory of ascending to the throne of God as a punishment, aren't you afraid of blaspheming the gods? Punishment? To me, becoming a god is worse than being punished. Becoming a god? It sounds great, but in reality, it isn't much. Since we're talking about becoming a god, naturally we have to talk about what a god is. In reality, there are many types of gods, and they can't be lumped together. At the very least, the gods of order and the malevolent gods of chaos are two completely different concepts. Most of the gods of order follow certain rules and concepts. This is usually their divine job, divine domain. Their existence itself is the collection of concepts. Most of them are the guardian gods of a certain job or region, strengthening themselves by accepting faith. However, this also restricted what they could do. They had to follow the rules that they had set for themselves and spread their own concepts. The most famous examples of this were Mother Earth, the god of holy light, and the goddess of magic. These three were unbelievably powerful, but they had already lost their sense of self and had all transformed into concepts. The malevolent gods of chaos are also able to accept faith to strengthen themselves, but they have much more freedom. Seeing how Rose is messing around in the underground world, no one jumps out to give her a slap. Even though this is a secret of the gods that no church would teach, to me, it is just a facade to deceive the world. The most fundamental difference is that the gods of order follow the goddess of order, Astrea, who hibernates in the source of order. On the other hand, the malevolent gods of chaos have to pledge their loyalty to the goddess of chaos, Cynthia, who hibernates in the abyss of chaos. All right, it seems like I accidentally revealed another big news. Since I have already set it up to this point, I might as well finish what I have to say. Astrea hibernates in the source of order, guiding the souls of the gods of order to ascend to the top of the heaven's pillar. Every time a soul is unable to provide any more faith and enters the cycle of reincarnation, those soul fragments that believe in order will become nourishment for Astrea, allowing her to wake up earlier. It is the same for Cynthia as well. The only difference is that the one guiding the souls of chaos isn't the heaven's pillar, but the river Styx. The place where she hibernates isn't the source of order, but the abyss of chaos. This is also the reason why the holy war is endless. Even if the two goddesses are in a deep sleep, they still instinctively hope to wake up. As long as the cycle of reincarnation continues long enough, there will come a day when they wake up. The more devout a soul that believes in order and chaos, the more nutritious it is. Furthermore, the angry roars of the souls of the warriors who die in battle are even more nutritious. Then, when the two goddesses instinctively hope to revive, the source of all life, the source of order and the abyss of chaos, doesn't want to stop the war, this cycle of recovery and the start of the holy war will continue. As long as the war continues, there will come a day when Astrea and Cynthia awaken from their eternal slumber after receiving sufficient sacrifices. The final war of the gods will begin, and the world will once again return to the primitive era. In the history, this darn calamity did happen. After the sacrifice of the first 6 calamities, the two goddesses of creation finally awakened and led their subordinate gods to fight against the mortal races. In the end, the ending was the same as the first holy war. There was no victor, and the two indestructible goddesses hibernated once more. The gods fell, and the mortal races went extinct. The world of Aichi was also destroyed because of this. Perhaps, when civilization rises once more, there will be a next cycle of reincarnation. This might be the ultimate secret that even the gods of the new era don't know about. But to me, it is just the background information of the last expansion of the walkthrough. What the heck? I know that the goddesses of creation are great, and that it is indeed impressive for you to create so many races. But can you sisters fight on your own? Don't drag others down with you. This is the first thought I had when I saw it. If I wasn't a transcender, I would have been burned at the stake long ago. So, from the very start, I have been wavering between the Order faction and the Chaos faction. I think that both sides aren't good things. I have never acknowledged the mainstream view that chaos is evil and order is good. Even though I am on the order faction, I still make use of the source of order, the source of the world, without any respect. All right, so much information has been revealed. Then the problem arises. Since the river Styx doesn't stop, chaos doesn't stop. If this war were to continue, everyone would be doomed together. Then, how should I stop it? Although it seems impossible to do, exploiting loopholes in the rules is my forte. After spending many years, I finally thought of it. The first step is to ascend to the position of God and strengthen the power of law. The current power of law can be considered as a lower-tier power of the origin of order. Although I said that I want to use the power of law to replace the power of holy light, in reality, the power of law is still too weak. It is impossible to cultivate the power of law in a place without a God equipment grimoire. Furthermore, the God equipment remnant page is destined to be limited. If I want to spread it, I will have to wait. So, just like the holy light, there must be a God of holy light, even if it is just a God power server. This way, no matter where and when, those who believe in law will be able to obtain actual power. Only then will the power of law have the possibility to truly replace the holy light. This is the prerequisite for everything. Furthermore, it is the first and most fundamental step of my strategy. Then, since I have figured out what a god is, there must be a god of law. Then, how do I become a god? Actually, it isn't difficult to become a god of order. Other than those lucky ones who obtain the god power of the old gods and divine concepts. As long as one develops new important concepts and divine concepts, as well as reaching the realm of semi-god. This is to be able to control the god power and not explode due to the god power. One can announce it to the world, elevate the position of God, spread their faith, and recruit believers. At the very least, this is how the God of holy light came about. He should be the earliest priest of holy light. Every newly born god of order will greatly strengthen the power of order. Those who develop new concepts to ascend to godhood will usually receive the recognition and rewards of the origin of order, allowing them to swiftly grow stronger. This is also the reason why Kaja and the others viewed me as a future god. This future should be because they realize that I have yet to reach the realm of semi-god. As for me, Wumian's Roland, the past semi-god undead emperor, I have already fulfilled the requirements to ascend to godhood. However, the interference of a true god towards the mortal world is limited. If I were to ascend to the position of God, as a true god controlled by the origin of order, it would be impossible for me to jump out of the war between the two sides. My plan would also go down the drain. Now I have found a loophole in the god system. At this moment, I have gathered all of my chips, and it is time for me to activate this crazy plan. I, Wumian's, the discoverer and user of the power of law. In the sacred city of the origin of the power of law, Sulphur Mountain City, I declare to the world that I will elevate the position of God and carry out the duties of a true God of law. The origin of order, which has been waiting for a long time, descends a gigantic silver pillar of light. The weight of the power of order within it is suffocating. When the declaration of ascension to godhood spreads across the entire world, all living beings stop in their tracks and look at the sky with sincerity. Adam, who just came down from the operating table, looks at the light pillar of order outside the window with a face full of shock along with the others. He only knows how to mutter softly, "Roland, your game sure is big. Do you intend to fool the gods?" Chapter 65. I, Wumian's, the discoverer and user of the power of law, declare to the world in Sulphur Mountain City, the origin of the power of law, that I will ascend to the throne of God and carry out the duties of the true God of law. The declaration of the true God resounds in the ears of all living beings. Regardless of whether it is a traveler who is on a long journey, a busy merchant who is hawking his goods, a nobleman who is chatting loudly at a wine party, or even the soldiers on both sides of the war, all of them stop what they are doing and listen to the true God's oath. I swear to treat all life fairly. The just power of law will protect all innocent people and punish all crimes. For the sake of justice, I swear to imitate the God of holy light, to give up myself and turn into the law. From then on, I am the law and the law is me. To obtain the power of law, there is no need to recite my God's name. All you need to do is to believe in and carry out the law. Fighting for believers, fighting for territory, expanding the faith, raising the divinity, and other troublesome matters. Even a few hundred years isn't a long time. I don't have the time to waste with the other gods. What the law faction needs is a god power server. So I will become a server. This kind of true god who has no self won't be viewed as an enemy by the other order gods. Furthermore, after turning into a pure concept, my growth speed will explode. As long as the faith of law spreads, I will be able to become a powerful god very quickly. Even if a brainless god power server becomes stronger, it won't think of swallowing up other divine concepts. No matter how I look at it, it is a good thing for the order faction. This way, I don't have to worry about other gods initiating a god war to wipe out this newly born god. Of course, it is impossible for me to obediently go to the heavens to become a god power server. Then, is there any other way to fail the ascension? To invalidate my oath to become a god? There isn't such a method in history, but in theory there is. That is death. When a person dies, their soul enters the cycle of reincarnation. How can they ascend to become a god? That is why I didn't hesitate to ignite my own soul to seek death. Of course, it is impossible for me to fail completely. Anyway, the God Power server doesn't require a high level of thinking ability. Splitting a few soul fragments is enough. As for me, I have long prepared a dozen phylactic-like soul artifacts to construct a new god. Among them, there are even 2 semi-god equipment. Semi-god equipment, dignity of justice, bound, defense, 10 points. Even steel plate armor only has 5 points of defense. Cloth armor robes have a defense of this level. Effect 1. Sinner's self-judgment inflicts guilt and guilt on the sinner. As time goes by, the sinner will fall into a state of fear and helplessness. The heavier the crime and the more guilt the sinner will feel, the better the effect will be. The innocent will ignore the effect. Special Effect 2, Judge's Iron Mask. The wearer's charm is fixed at 20. Resistance against charm, detection, and illusion spells plus 20. The third special effect is a soul artifact. The technology from another world allows it to contain Wumian's soul fragment. Set attribute 4. When the semi-god equipment Wumian's gaze is equipped at the same time, the wearer will be recognized by the rules of order as Wumian's himself, the digger of the power of law. The wearer will receive a buff from the origin of law, increasing the power of law by 30%, and increasing the difficulty of being immune to spells by 50%. Semi-god equipment, Wumian's gaze, bound, defense, 0, special effect 1, true sight. No illusions or lies will be able to deceive Wumian's. The wearer will ignore all illusions. Special Effect 2, Voice of Justice. The words spoken by the wearer will not be recorded by any spells, even if it is the truth. Resistance against deceit, intimidation, and other verbal spells plus 20. Effect 3, Soul Artifact. The technology from another world allows it to contain Wumian's soul fragment. Set attribute 4, Origin of Law. When the semi-god equipment Dignity of Justice is equipped at the same time, the wearer will be recognized by the rules of order as Wumian's himself, the digger of the power of law. The wearer will receive a buff from the Origin of Law, increasing the power of law by 30%, and increasing the difficulty of being immune to spells by 50%. Weight of the common artifact Curse Gavel. The wearer must possess the identity of a judge and a law enforcer to carry out their duties impartially. If they break the law due to personal reasons and speak nonsense, the robe will transform into an inextinguishable god flame, destroying the wearer's soul and physical body. Please use the authority in your hands cautiously. What the gavel decides isn't just the rise and fall of an individual, but the dignity of justice and justice. Wumian's of the Supreme Court. This is my robe and mask as Wumian's. Furthermore, It is a semi-god equipment recognized by the origin of order. What I want to make use of is their fourth special effect, origin of law. As long as the light pillar of order loses me, the target, then they, who possess my soul fragment, will be sufficient to become a qualified god power server. At this moment, they're assembled together, resembling a dummy. The Womians who has obtained the fourth special effect is also recognized by the rules of order. But, as expected, even without a personality, the origin of order isn't easy to deceive. The light pillar of order that guides a true god to ascend to the heavens ignores the dummy, but it doesn't envelop me. Instead, the Roland sacred sword is bound by it. After all, only the soul is required to become a god, and the soul of a lich is in his phylactery. My phylactery is this sacred sword. Amidst the endless silver light, the soul fire which was extinguished due to the soul ignition actually starts to burn furiously once more. This broken sword actually starts to reconstruct itself. There is only one possibility. The thing that I am worried about the most has happened. The power of order is starting to repair my broken phylactery. If it was in the past, I would be overjoyed as this means that I can level up and grow. But at this moment, it is a symbol of my death. I don't want to be forced to ascend to the heavens. Eliza, follow the plan. But there are no buts. I deserve to be judged. Sinners will be judged. Yes, sinners will be judged, regardless of their identity or reason. It is because of the existence of the sin itself. No matter what I do in the future, the sins of the past will always be carried on my shoulders. The souls that died because of me are enough to fill the entire river Styx. No matter how many people I save or how many good deeds I have done, I am still a sinner. I can't even deceive my own heart. So how can I get the system to admit that I have become a kind person? On the tablet of law in front of the Supreme Court, there is a maxim that I personally wrote. The only thing that can wash away one's sins is a fair trial and the punishment of the Codex. There is no exception. Chapter 22. Sinners will be judged. This is my personal belief in the law. I, whose hands are stained with blood, don't have the right to become the god of law. Perhaps this is the reason why I avoided the option of ascending to godhood personally. Perhaps it is because I subconsciously look forward to being judged and receiving salvation that the God Equipment Codex has the final effect. Codex of Law Effect 4. Sinners will be judged. Active carry out the final judgment on a target, cleansing him of all his sins and give him the final judgment. Prerequisite. The target must accept the judgment. Looking at the silver light of order that is getting stronger and stronger, Eliza is finally forced to grit her teeth and raise the Codex of Law. Sinners will be judged. Sinner Roland, will you accept the judgment? Looking at the bloodstains on Elisa's red lips caused by her silver teeth, I knew that I was too cruel. I actually forced Elisa to execute the person she loved. However, the words of apology rolled around in my mouth, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't say them. In the end, I could only sigh helplessly. Sigh, I am guilty. I accept the judgment. The light of order from the same source shines brightly. My soul is brought to a star court. The ancient Valkyrie, who act as the jury and the audience, are already seated. On the other hand, Eliza herself is sitting on the judge's seat. The Codex of Law is floating in midair. Countless memories are playing out in the court. Those are the memories that I remember and those that I don't. At this moment, they are the evidence of my guilt. In one of the scenes, my Yongya army is wantonly massacring. Wherever the undead army goes, cities are turned into ruins and the dead become new soldiers. The fresh blood of the living turns into an endless sea of blood. The overflowing resentment extends all the way to the heaven's pillar. Even the gods are enraged by this. Sinner Roland, you shall be sentenced to death for war crimes. When the judgment begins, the holder of the Codex of Law is under the control of the absolute justice. Even though her face is filled with reluctance, Eliza still reads out the judgment word by word. Yes, death penalty, unquestionably death penalty. In terms of creating tragedies and war show, who just died on the battlefield isn't even fit to carry my shoes. I deserve to be sentenced to death for war crimes. Yes, I plead guilty. Time and space shifts. On a black guillotine, my soul and physical body are sandwiched on it at the same time. Then the guillotine that is stained with blood falls down. Gotcha! My head is separated from my body. Ah! Even though I am prepared, the pain and emptiness of death is still unbearable. My severed head is no longer able to make a sound, but my soul is still screaming in agony. Pain, excruciating pain. My life is slipping away at a frenzy, and my head is already gone. My instincts as a living being makes me wail in agony. In my final wail, my soul and physical body start to dissipate at the same time. This is true death. I, who never believed in the true gods of order, will enter the cycle of reincarnation and fall into the river Styx. But suddenly, a silver light falls, and in an instant, my dissipating soul becomes clear once again. I was actually forcefully revived by the origin of order. Raising my head to look at the light pillar of order, which has become slightly thinner, I clench my teeth and say, "Continue the judgment. It's effective. Let's fight it to the death." Under the man's merciless command, tears flowed down the face of the young lady silently. But in the end, under the effects of the god equipment, the sobs that escape from her mouth turn into a cold and dignified judgment. "Sinner Roland, you shall be sentenced to death for the crime of swindling." The various images in the void are filled with my lies. The biggest screen shows me maliciously creating the eternal night scepter and handing it over to the auction house. Yes, maliciously lying is also a heavy crime. The death penalty is definitely appropriate. In the void, I am pushed onto the gallows once again. Then, the platform beneath my feet disappears, and beneath me is an endless void. My neck is tied tightly, and my throat is in excruciating pain. The suffocation of my soul is even more unbearable than that of my physical body. I want to scream, but I am unable to do so. Finally, with a kick of my legs, I return to silence. Just as my soul starts to dissipate, a silver light falls, and I am restored once again. "Continue. Sinner Roland, you shall be sentenced to death for the crime of murder. This time, it is death by poison. Endless pain buries in my blood vessels. Swelling pain, piercing pain, icy cold feeling, burning sensation, and finally, only a lifeless corpse is left. Silver light falls. Continue." It has already thinned out a lot. Eliza's face is already covered in tears. But at this moment, it is already impossible for her to stop. Once the judgment begins, the crimes of the sinners who have committed heinous crimes will not stop before they are judged. Furthermore, the crimes that I have committed in the past 300 years are far from enough for me to be sentenced to death 3 to 4 times. Sinner Roland, you shall be sentenced to death for the crime of going against intelligent life, crime against humanity. This time, it is the soul electric chair. Silver light falls. Arson crime this time, it is the gallows. Silver light falls. Poisoning crime this time, it is drowning. Silver light falls. One after another, my crimes are placed on the judgment stand. I die and revive and die. My soul shatters and reassembles and shatters again. Even for me, at this moment, I wish that everything would end here. Finally, after dying for who knows how many times, the numb me starts to give up hope. Finally, there's a short gap between the falling light of order. Quick, use that. I am pointing at the huge blade by the side of the judgment stand, the Dragon Slayer blade. Eliza loosens her grip on the codex, pulls up the heavy blade, and slashes towards the Roland sacred sword. Special effect, unstoppable, 100% chance of breaking a weapon below elite tier. 50% chance of breaking an elite tier weapon. 30% chance of breaking an epic tier weapon. 1% chance of breaking a weapon below god tier. This is the most useful attribute of the otherworldly god weapon Dragon Slayer. Although the Roland Sacred Sword is a rare god weapon that is comparable to a semi-god equipment, it is still not a god tier equipment. At the very least, there is a 1% chance of breaking it. If a Lich's phylactery were to shatter, and there is no time to repair it, naturally, he would be deader than dead. Thus, the first reaction I had when I saw this god weapon is to include it in my backup plan. Dang, dang, dang. That is the sound of blades clashing against each other, and it is also the sound of my death. However, I sincerely hope that it comes faster, because in the sky, the light pillar of order gathers once again. Hurry up and move away. This light of order is fatal to you, who has a demon bloodline. But Eliza doesn't seem to hear it at all. She only increases the speed of her slashing. But the next moment, without any warning, a silver light pillar suddenly descends. The moment the light pillar descends, I am already in despair. It doesn't matter to me. At most, I will think of another way. At most, I will really go up and become a god power server. But for Eliza, no. I have never regretted so much. Regretted making such a decision. I regretted not being able to see this young lady ever again. I regretted ignoring Eliza's hint. I regretted that I didn't say some words out loud. Fury of thunder. The raging thunder suddenly strikes the light pillar in the sky and forcefully clashes with it. But very quickly, the light pillar shatters the thunder and continues to descend. At the same time, a figure covered in lightning had already blocked the beam of light. Adam. Yes, he just came down from the operating table and is still very weak. But at this moment, he is standing on the battlefield once more. He doesn't need to ask why he wants to go against the so-called benevolent source of order. Just by hearing his comrades' roars and wails, he doesn't hesitate to risk his life. Lightning, respond to my call. Endless thunder gathers under the command of its master. The furious swordsman swings his sword at the sky. This time, after the smoke dissipates, the thunder and the light of order die together. The next moment, as though angered, an even bigger light of order descends. If struck, even Adam, who has the Titan bloodline, would die on the spot. But looking down, he has no intention of dodging. Instead, he raises his sword. Corridor time. Fortunately, a voice resounds. Under the full power of the semi-god saint, the time around the light of order is forcefully slowed down. You fool, do you think you haven't died enough? All right, facing the angry roars and questions of the blue figure, Adam can only smile foolishly. Even with the combined strength of two semi-god experts, the time deceleration magic and the continuous lightning strikes, they can only slow down the time of the light of order. But with this buffer, there is an opportunity below. Finally, the 1% special effect is triggered. Gotcha! After a crisp sound, the Roland's sacred sword breaks into pieces and the gray soul scatters in all directions. It's done. My voice reaches above and Adam steps aside. Marguerite, who is already drenched in sweat from the struggle, hurriedly dispels her magic and the light of order descends. At this moment, the shattered phylactery can no longer attract its attention and it strikes the fake human beside it. At this moment, I make use of the time to activate the soul fragment of the semi-god equipment to make it look more like a complete human. Following the continuous replenishment of the light of order, the missing soul is filled up. This fake human gradually becomes complete and begins its transformation from a human to a true god. As for me, I'm already lying on the ground peacefully, waiting for the summons of death. But at the last moment, I see Eliza walking towards me with a huge blade in her hand, her eyes bloodshot and a creepy smile on her face. Special effect frenzy. 1% chance of entering a berserk state where you won't recognize your own kin. At this moment, you will prioritize killing your kin. Alright, I should have known that with my luck, since the 1% special effect to sever the sacred sword was triggered, the 1% chance of the frenzy would definitely be triggered as well. Looking at the girl who raises her blade and slashes down, I am unable to move at all and can only smile helplessly. Should I be glad that she really treats me as her kin? No. This cause of death is too unsightly. It is just like a philandering husband being dismembered by his first wife. I don't want this kind of death. Unfortunately, in the next second, everything before me turns black. Whether I was really dismembered or if I was stopped by Adam and the rest, I really don't know. 2 months later, in the infernal abyss of the lower plane, on the river Styx, which is usually silent, there's a soul that is completely different from the other dead souls. I love bathing. My skin is so good. Wearing a shower cap, jumping around, piranhas want to escape, washing up and down. Something seems wrong. What is the next sentence? Forget it if you can't remember it. Ah, boss, if you still didn't come, I would have forgotten even my own name. He looks like a youngster, and the song he is singing is indeed a nursery rhyme from another world. But somehow, it feels a little incongruous. 184,621, 184,622. Fortunately, just as he starts to count from 1 to 200,000 out of boredom, a small black boat appears on the river Styx, which should not have any boats. The boatman is a handsome black-robed young man. He isn't tall or short, and there isn't anything special about him. The black robe fits him well, as though it is the silent night. As for me, I am overjoyed. I have floated for long enough. Even the soul of a transcender can't take it anymore. Hey, over here. Hearing my shout, the small boat changes direction, and very quickly, I am fished up by the boatman. Boss Ale, if you still didn't come, I would have thought that you were going back on your words. Yes, the seemingly ordinary young man in front of me is the most ancient god, the highest king of the first generation of humans, Death God Ale. You have done so well, why would I go back on my words? Your clone, the god of law Womians, is currently the hottest topic among the gods. In order to completely block off all detection spells, even I had to put in quite a bit of effort. However, it is obviously worth it. Death God AL's praise is extremely rare. Towards those supreme, true gods, he is famous for not being nice. Then, let's proceed according to the plan. Of course, I've already said that whoever dares to touch Womians is equivalent to declaring war with me. You don't have to worry about that, clone. The next step should be to expand the faith of law and raise the god power of the god of law. Yes, this is the second part of the plan. To make law replace holy light as the number one faith of all intelligent life forms. Although it is difficult, it isn't impossible. I have a plan for this as well. The black-clothed death god smiles. For the first time, he feels that letting this eloquent brat off the hook back then was a great fortune. All right. However, to raise the god of law to become the god of judgment, or even the god of Hades to establish your own god system, you'll need to defeat at least 4 to 5 powerful gods and seize their godhood and divine concepts. This path isn't easy to walk on. Yes, becoming the god of law is just the starting point. To change everything, just becoming the god of law isn't enough. In the other world's east, as long as the judge is mentioned, the first reaction of the elderly isn't the dignified judge, but the king of hell and the judge of hell from the ancient myths. In Egypt, Japan, and other countries, there are many myths of judging souls after death and dealing with them according to their good and evil. This is the expectation that good will be rewarded with good and evil will be punished with evil. It is also a warning used in ancient times to scare evil people from committing crimes. In the past, when people believed in the existence of gods, it indeed served as a warning. The elderly told their descendants not to commit crimes or evil, otherwise they will go to hell. In this world, there are true gods, but there isn't a so-called god of the underworld. The only relevant death god, Ale, only manages the reincarnation system. In order to stop the eternal war, we must stop the reincarnation system that continuously transfuses blood to both sides and stop the revival of the two goddesses. However, it is meaningless to oppose it. Since we feel that the reincarnation system isn't right, we must propose a new reincarnation system to replace it. Thus, I thought of the hell of Hades. If souls don't choose to enter the river Styx or the heaven's pillar based on their beliefs in the past, instead, they are handed over to the neutral gods to be judged, allowing the innocent to go through the reincarnation and the guilty to serve their sentence in the hell of Hades. Perhaps the living will be warned and restricted, and this world will be much better. Most importantly, the two goddesses who have lost their supply are destined to never wake up. But just thinking about it, this seems like an impossible task. However, since even the inconceivable step of ascending to godhood has been taken, perhaps There isn't anything that is completely impossible in this world. Only the words of the strong will be listened to. It is the same for the world of the gods. The first thing to do is to spread the faith of law so that the god of law Womians can become stronger. This isn't easy. Do you intend to personally go to the human world? This matter can't be done by anyone else. After reviving, I will set off. My first stop is the West Mist communal country. That is my homeland. The country established by the descendants of the legendary holy knight Roland Mist. The descendants of the Mist? Hearing those words, I shook my head. I have heard of this legend before, but I didn't take it seriously. Maybe it's just to raise my reputation. When I died, I was only 14 years old, so it is impossible for me to leave behind any descendants. Are you sure? I'm not sure. I have lost too many memories. But, based on my habits, the possibility of me leaving behind descendants isn't high. Perhaps it is Cavendish's descendant. He seems to be very popular with women. Why? Even the death god is interested in the gossip of humans. No, I'm just asking for someone's help. Who can ask for your help to ask about this gossip? Your lover. Wait, when did I have a lover? Why can't I remember it? 2 months ago, on the day you ascended to godhood. Don't you remember? Master, do you still remember the condition? Agree to my confession. This is the condition. In an instant, I remember the words I said back then. The condition back then wasn't to put on an act in front of Adam, but to agree to this so-called confession. Eliza, you tricked 2 people in one go, turning the act into reality? Is this considered as a confession? Back then, my mind was in a mess, so how could I react? I thought that she was trying to help me smooth things over. How could I have thought that it was a confession? It is that girl named Eliza. She is really courageous, scolding me by the river Styx, provoking me to come out, and ask me to fulfill my promise to fetch you. Please be magnanimous and forgive me. Why would I bicker with a little girl? On the contrary, I admire her courage and determination, so I gave her a small gift. However, you are in a bit of trouble. An ominous premonition appeared in my mind. That sword-wielding figure appeared in front of me again. For some reason, I had the urge to jump off the boat and run away, even if the river Styx that represented death was below me. Where are we going now? Of course, to meet your little girlfriend. I promised to bring you to meet her. Can I jump off the boat? Go ahead, as long as you think that you can escape from my hands. A soul escaped from the hands of the strongest death god. Helpless, I could only howl. How unfortunate. Chapter 66. The small boat advances slowly on the river Styx. It seems to be so slow that it isn't moving at all, but in reality, it is leaping between plains, shortening the distance to its destination. The river Styx that flows through countless plains is filled with the silent dead. It flows through the cracks of various worlds, harvesting the souls of those in chaos. If one isn't worried about the river Styx taking away their soul and memories, it is indeed easy to travel between planes. However, it is a pity that currently, only the death god ALS small boat is able to cross the river Styx. The demon Duke Kazranak of the 63rd floor of the Abyss used the souls of the dead to create a soul ship. Even the ship and the Duke himself were destroyed by Ale. Other than proving that Ale has absolute control over the river Styx, it also proves that the death god who rarely makes a move isn't a nice guy. Even I cherish this rare experience. The expensive river Styx, mainly because it is too difficult to extract, is right in front of me. It is an important ingredient for countless top-tier secret alchemy potions and poisons. Coincidentally, I am able to scoop it up. If I don't pack more, how can I be a thrifty lich? Very quickly, I realize that there isn't a container to store the souls. Should I borrow it from Ale, the guardian of the river Styx? That is no different from a thief borrowing a gunny sack from a policeman because he finds it hard to carry his loot. You want the river Styx? Take it. Looks like this policeman doesn't take the item he is guarding seriously. He casually tosses a worn-out bottle over. However, through my system identification, it is a rare item. Bossar's drinking bottle, an ancient artifact. It can hold 7 different liquids. This bottle has received Bossar's blessing, so you will never have to worry about the quality of the water deteriorating. Basar is an ancient sea god, but he has long fallen in the past. It is only natural for Ale, who has lived for countless years, to be rich in wealth. Casually gifting an ancient artifact to me is quite generous. What surprised me is that there are already two types of liquids stored inside. The blood essence of the first-generation humans, the royal family of the Alpine clan, a diamond-class order bloodline. If submitted to the system when the body is reconstructed, it will provide a new type of physical body to choose from. This dark red blood has witnessed the rise and fall of countless species. As the first generation of order people who are equal to the ancient angels and ancient demons, perhaps the blood does not have much innate power, but contains endless potential. The Devil Lord's blood essence is a diamond-level chaos bloodline. If you submit it to the system when you reconstruct your body, you will be provided with a new type of body to choose from. The collective degeneration of the first generation of humans created the devils, an evil race that can rival the demons. This blood contains endless magic power. However, please note that power is not that easy to obtain. The evil and depravity of the devil's bloodline cannot be avoided. The death god Ale was once the king of the ancient humans. It is normal for him to have the bloodline of the ancient humans. However, the Devil Lord's blood essence is the foundation of the Devil Lord. Even if he were to kill him, he wouldn't be able to obtain it. He could only take the risk of losing his power to hand it over obediently and make the Devil Lord lower its head. Looks like the rumors of Ale colluding with the devils might be true. You should be reconstructing your body, right? Although I don't know what kind of method you're going to use to reconstruct your body, at the very least, you will need the materials. These should be of use. Should I praise myself for hugging onto the right thigh? Not only can this be of use, if I had this in the past, I wouldn't have been so complacent with my silver bloodline. Diamond bloodline. It is an existence that can directly crush the gold bloodline of the dragons. In front of this, Little Red's acquired half-diamond bloodline and ancient dragon bloodline that was raised from the gold bloodline is nothing. Thus, looking at me happily keeping the bottle, Ale shakes his head and starts to talk about another matter. Right, didn't you talk about hell and hell the last time? There are even ghost soldiers? Do you know that our world is hell as well? Of course I know. However, it isn't the same thing at all. The hell that I'm talking about is more like an underground prison, used to imprison and torture sinful souls. On the other hand, the hell of H's world is filled with devils. I talked to little TIAs about it. If the Hades really succeeds, he is willing to give up hell and even let all of the devils learn to be prison guards. Little TIAs? Camille TIAs? The current leader of the 9 Devil Kings? Let the other party give up hell to become a Hades? I can finally confirm that the rumors are wrong. Looks like it isn't that Ale is colluding with the devils, but that the devils are ALS subordinates. This seemingly casual chat suggestion reveals the greatest secret of the world, as well as the countless risks involved. This is a kind offer of assistance, as well as a way for the collaborator to flaunt his strength. More importantly, it is a dangerous probe. However, if the powerful devils were to join this plan, the success rate would naturally be much higher. Of course, the prerequisite is that their existence can't be exposed. After all, their terrible reputation will make many things more complicated. However, the realization of the plan is my highest goal. Since this is a good thing that will greatly help the plan, why should I reject it? Of course, even blood brothers should settle their debts clearly, so some things should still be said clearly. Sure, but the leader of hell and the highest judge must still be under Womian's control. Also, what do the devils intend to obtain from this plan? Just tell me directly, otherwise I won't be able to rest assured. Yes, the devils are famous for being sly. Why would they do something that isn't profitable? Freedom. No matter what Ale says, I wouldn't be surprised. However, this word is incomprehensible. Freedom? Could it be that the powerful devil tribe is actually enslaved by others? If that's the case, wouldn't it be the same as being controlled by the Hades of the future? It isn't freedom on the surface, but true freedom. You should know that once you become a high-level devil, even if you die in the other planes, you will only be sent back to hell, and your strength will be reduced. But once they die in the lower planes, it will be true destruction. I can faintly guess what ale means. You mean the cycle of reincarnation? Yes, back then, in order to not participate in the so-called Holy War, my tribe collectively submitted to the goddess of chaos. In the end, in every so-called Holy War, the devils still become cannon fodder. As for those old fellows, they have long been tired of the cunning life of the devils and the constant battles. They wish to be free, but they are unwilling to have their souls destroyed. However, the cycle of reincarnation can be opened to any race, but the devils and demons can forget about it. After all, they're the main force of the Holy War. How many? This can't be a decision made by the entire race. How many of the 9 devil lords agree? Including Little Taya, the 4 immemorial devil lords who were transformed from ancient humans all nodded. Of course, it's not that the others don't agree, but we didn't tell them, nor do we intend to tell them. Another secret agreement in the gutter? But I like it. Your reputation is too bad, and if you were to be exposed, there'll be endless trouble. This kind of secret agreement is the most suitable. Thus, it's time to negotiate and sign the contract. The devil's contract is famous throughout the world, but as long as you are able to avoid all the traps in its words, it is definitely the most effective contract in the world. Furthermore, a contract signed by a devil lord is something that even the Chaos Abyss is unable to change. Even if the devils are sincere and the terms are generous. But since you're the ones looking for me to cooperate with, it would be foolish of me not to take advantage of you. Thus, after more than 3 hours of bitter negotiation, under ALS praises of you are more like a devil than a devil, and you are more greedy than a demon, I was finally satisfied with the outcome of the contract. Lord Ale, are you tired of it as well? Looking at the Devil Lord's desire for reincarnation on the contract, I have a new view of Ale who is also bound to the throne of death. No, this world is so beautiful, and the evolution of the various races is also interesting. I still have many things I want to do. Although this throne of death is indeed uncomfortable, it is also very free, so I don't have much of an opinion on it. However, I am a king after all, so naturally I have to consider the hopes of my subjects. If you are a king, you should be able to understand. Nodding my head, I didn't pursue the matter, but I am interested in some of the past. The ale in front of me looks young, but he was an extremely old monster who was in the same generation as the 2 goddesses. Perhaps I can learn many true secrets from him. You should have met the goddess of order, Astria, and the goddess of chaos, Cynthia. What kind of existences are they, and why did they cause the eternal war? Air turned around and glanced at me. That seemingly normal gaze of his made one's hair stand on end. However, I didn't care. In any case, this person could easily kill anyone, even a god. The barefooted wasn't afraid of wearing shoes. It would be a pity to miss out on this chance to listen to ancient secrets. What was there for me to be afraid of? In the end, Ale sighs and says helplessly, "The mother goddess is a good woman. She views all lives as her children, but sometimes excessive maternal love will limit the development of the children. She hopes for all races to live the way she wishes, but how is that possible? As for Big Sister Cynthia, she is on the other end of the spectrum. She loves to watch gladiator fights and wars, admiring those unyielding warriors. She hopes that her subjects can evolve independently. Do you believe that the immemorial demons back then weren't actually evil? They just like to compete in sports. On this small river, time isn't a problem. Countless ancient mysteries are spoken of by this ancient god. Even though it is supposed to be a soul-stirring epic legend, it is described by this young-looking old man as though it is a fight between 2 unfilial neighbors. Even though it is supposed to be a bloody replacement of the immemorial gods, he describes it as an 8 p.m. show filled with love and hatred between men and women. However, I'm still engrossed in it. And this might come in handy. I didn't think that the demons would have such a weakness. Yes, the past is information, and information is the cornerstone to victory in the future. This is probably a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so how can I not grab it? When the boat reaches the shore, I heave a sigh of relief, but at the same time, I am a little nervous. Eliza heaves a sigh of relief when she sees me. This is an underground river, but under the control of the death god, it becomes a part of the river Styx. The moment I reach the shore, the flowing river Styx dissipates along with ale. I'm back. Oomph. You still remember to come back. Then, I won't buy your old house to repay my wages for the time being. Hey, don't burn the bridge after crossing the river. It is enough if you don't call me master. Is it right to sell your master's house the moment he leaves? Is there a need to call each other respectfully between lovers? Or do you like this kind of master-servant shaming play? What? You are too much. Why are you acting dumb? Didn't you just agree to my confession? Eliza fakes her tears. Thinking about that darn confession, I am at a loss. Does that count? Back then. Isn't that enough? No matter what, I'm still a girl. As a man, it is enough that you didn't confess, and you still think that I am being too reserved? Eliza slaps the table and roars furiously. But as someone who is familiar with her, how can I not see the worry and sternness in her voice? She is worried that I will go back on my words. After hesitating for a moment, it seems like I really owe her too much. Thinking about the figure who refused to back down under the light of order, and looking at her current state, I don't have the intention to pursue the matter. All right. How is Sulphur Mountain City now? Sulphur Mountain City is fine, but the old city Lord Adam isn't doing well. Even though she said it this way, it is obvious that she is happy that I didn't deny it and go back on my words. While lamenting that I actually have a girlfriend one day, upon hearing that Adam isn't doing well, I felt a little weird. Could it be that something went wrong when he blocked the light of order that day? Did something happen to the Titan's heart? There shouldn't be any problem with my transplant surgery. Adam's skin is so thick, so he shouldn't be that weak. No, it's not that. Right after Womian's ascended to godhood, he announced his relationship with Marguerite and arranged for their marriage. In the end, there were rumors that Lord Adam was abandoned by Lord Womian's, and Lord Marguerite took advantage of the situation. There is even a playwright who used this as a theme and wrote it into the recently published legend of Womian's. It is selling like hotcakes in Sulphur Mountain City, especially that grudge of the past. It is really heart-wrenching and horrifying. I didn't think that we would have so many grudges back then. Right? Are you and Adam really not blood-related brothers? Don't you have a fiancé who is suffering from leukemia? Gratitude and grudges, my ass. Didn't you recall Lisa's memories? You are the person involved, so why are you listening to such nonsense? Damn it, that rumor of me having an affair with Adam actually has a continuation. Right? Isn't this the rumor that you spread? You still dare to say it. But Eliza speaks with conviction. Of course, as your official girlfriend, I have the right to supervise your healthy private life. All right, then. As your official boyfriend, can I ask you what is going on now? Why are you only a clone now? Also, when did you get the ability to project a clone? That's right. I had long since discovered that the Elise in front of me was Elise, but also not Elise. She was only a projection of an avatar, and such an ability was something only the true gods of the upper planes or the demons and devils of the lower planes could possess. As expected, I can't hide it from you. Now, I am not the half-demon Elise. Please call me Marquis Elise. Congratulations, a Marquis-level great demon as your girlfriend is unparalleled. Marquis? Even if Elise demonified, it is impossible for her to reach the heavens in a single step, to surpass Cockajil in an instant. How is this possible? What exactly happened in these 2 months? Just as he was inexplicably surprised, Elise's projection became illusory. It seemed that the time to maintain the projection avatar was up. All right, looks like today's projection time is up. I have written the ins and outs of the matter in the letter on the desk in the old mansion. You can go back and ask, and suddenly, the dissipating Elise moves closer to me. Raising her hair, she lowers her head and kisses me lightly with her red lips. The moment she touches me, I feel a tinge of coldness, but she moves away. She smiles with a blushing face, as though she is the happiest woman in the world. The goal has been achieved. Now don't be fickle. Be careful that I might suddenly attack and inspect you. Following which, the projection disappears in the air, leaving me with a surprised face and a silver ring on my hand. Elise, a bad premonition lingers in my mind and the cries of my soul reverberate in the underground river. Could it be that I just got a girlfriend, and now I am going to become a bachelor? Suddenly, a familiar voice rings in my ear. I'm not dead yet. Stop calling your soul. My ears are going numb from being so loud. Eliza's voice comes from the ring. At this moment, in a certain battlefield in the lower realm, the silver-haired female demon marquise is lying on her throne. While leisurely commanding the battlefield in front of her, she talks to the familiar skull on her arm. In front of her, an endless demon army is engaged in a bloody battle. That is a demon count who is in the midst of a rebellion. As a demon marquise who is favored by the abyss, she still has many challenges to face. I have said it before, I won't let go of anyone that I fancy. Regardless of whether it is the power to control their own fate or you, remember, when I return, you're not allowed to take off the ring and you're not allowed to be fickle. Otherwise, you will remember what happened that day. To tell you the truth, your skull is now an ornament on my crown. All right, facing this cute threat, I am at a loss again. In the end, I can only sigh helplessly. Sigh, system, time to hand in the quest. I want to revive. Chapter 67. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have triggered an epic tier quest, Rise of the Phoenix. Quest requirement: investigate and resolve the crisis that Sulphur Mountain City is facing. Before Adam dies, groom in. Laid to become an independent leader. Quest reward: epic tier discount coupon. Buy any item below epic tier from the system shop at half price. The right to start the main storyline quest. At least, before you leave your hometown, leave your home to a reliable person. You probably didn't expect to see a wasteland when you return. Quest failure penalty. Would it be better to turn you into a skull with a mushroom growing on it, or a mushroom with a skull growing on it? Not good at all. Then it should be a skull with a mushroom growing on it. Back then, when I first received this quest, I didn't expect so many things to happen. At this moment, with this mission as the starting point, the situation in the underground world has already undergone a drastic change. If not for this messy mission, I probably wouldn't have taken the initiative to mess around in the Underground Alliance. In the end, no matter if the Alliance meets up as scheduled or if they simply listen to Show's call to attack Sulphur Mountain City, many things would be very different from the past. Time to submit the quest. Hey system, stop playing dead. The conditions for completing the epic tier quest are: 1. Sulphur Mountain City's crisis is resolved. 2. Adam isn't dead, and he won't commit suicide within expectations. 3. And laid to become a leader-class hero. I actually completed all of them. Congratulations, you actually saw through all the traps and completed all the hidden quests. I guarantee that you will be satisfied with the rewards this time. This slightly cold notification was actually reminding me of the fact that I was scammed. The third quest objective was to groom and to become a qualified city lord. This was within my expectations, but the first two, I really didn't think of them. As for the investigation of the crisis, I thought that it was to deal with the traitors and the invading army. Who knew that this darn system would actually want me to investigate the mastermind behind the scenes and eradicate the crisis? As for the seemingly time limit before Adam dies, it actually wanted me to change my target, but I guess I made a mistake. I actually managed to complete all of them by accident. Although the system has always been a scam, the amount of effort and reward is still trustworthy. I'm starting to look forward to its rewards this time. Main storyline activated. Detected that the host has turned into a soul form and is not inclined to any side. The system has been upgraded to its complete form. Fate system. From now on, evil points and justice points will be converted into fate points. Hosts will be able to change the future and obtain power from reversing the despair of fate. Fate system. Obtain power from changing fate? Isn't this my long-cherished wish? Looks like the speculation that this system is a part of my soul might really be true. From now on, daily quests will be randomly chosen between justice and evil quests, calculating the fate points awarded for epic quests. Mission Objective 1. Find out the mastermind behind the scenes and eradicate the threat to Sulphur Mountain City. Currently, the mastermind show is dead and Molly has lost her identity as the Dragon Empress and the Underground Autarch, so she is unable to pose any threat to Sulphur Mountain City. The seal of the fire elemental god has been broken, and the demons and Chaos Abyss have lost interest in Sulphur Mountain City. Sulphur Mountain City has become the origin of the power of law and the true gods. Countless law cultivators will come here to learn and defend, making it much safer. Based on the overall analysis, Mission Objective 1 was completed perfectly. Reward: 5,000 fate points. Although the reward was tempting, I was instead attracted by the important information that was revealed. The seal on the fire elemental god has been broken. Who broke it? Although we promised to break the seal so that the Chaos faction will completely give up, breaking the seal so casually is a huge problem. It will take at least a dozen years to weaken it. Furthermore, I don't see any fire elemental creatures running around. Is it really broken? I questioned, but I didn't receive an answer. That system was just calculating my next mission objective mechanically. Mission Objective 2: Hidden reverse the fate of Adam's certain death. Using the Titan heart to replace the Phoenix heart, the death of his physical body has been successfully avoided. At this moment, Adam is busy dispelling the rumors and preparing for his wedding. The thought of seeking death has already disappeared. Mission Objective 2 has been completed excellently. Reward: 3,000 fate points. Looks like the system is really used to scamming me. Saving Adam from death really is a hidden mission. Mission Objective 3: Main storyline groom and to become a leader. At the very least, she will become a qualified city lord. The system will harvest the fate points generated from the main storyline mission and make the final evaluation. Hearing those words, I feel that I have been scammed again. The system requires me to be a leader from the very start. If I only understand it as a city lord, I'm afraid that the reward will only be the most basic one. And the so-called fate points that I get probably depends on how much I do in the quest. If I only stay in Sulphur Mountain City and let any take over, I probably won't get anything either. Hidden mission: Empress Victoria's secret completed. Under your influence, Victoria has once again stepped onto the path of the Dark Elf Empress. She might have started slowly and is unable to become the highest ruler of the Dark Elf Society, but at the very least, she will become one of the strongest leaders of the Dark Elves. Her good relationship with Sulphur Mountain City will definitely benefit and aid greatly. Reward: 3,000 fate points in Morseblight City. The newly appointed matriarch of the Siphon family, Victoria, was lecturing the audience. After gaining control of the Siphon family's power, she directly carried out a bloody purge against the restless second family. At this moment, she, who had just obtained the final victory, had already made the matriarchs of the other families in Morseblight City submit to her. At this moment, her next target is the remaining forces of Kaja. Hidden mission: Rise of the Centaurs completed. Under your influence, the Beastman Emperor Sho Nuya's forces have fallen apart. Meniel's centaurs took the opportunity to rise, and under the restraint of various parties, his niece Enlade has been promoted to the position of Beastman Emperor, becoming the new underground autarch. Reward: 5,000 fate points. In the tent on the plains, old Meniel can only helplessly look at the newly appointed Beastman Emperor rolling around on the ground. In the tent on the plains, old Meniel could only look helplessly at the newly appointed Beastman Sovereign rolling around on the ground. I don't want to go to the meeting. Those old men are so scary. I want to go to Sulphur Mountain City to play with Big Sister Annie and buy new clothes. When will my package arrive? I already said that I don't want to live in the countryside. It is so inconvenient. Old Meniel, who has just taken over Van City, doesn't have the disposition of a hero who suppressed the other heroes to obtain the position of Beastman Emperor a month ago. At this moment, in order to protect the dignity of the new Beastman Emperor, he requests the guards to not let anyone in while looking at his granddaughter acting shamelessly, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. At this moment, the wrinkled face of him isn't some chieftain, but an old man who wants to teach a lesson to a spoiled brat, but can't bring himself to do so. In the end, he can only nod his head helplessly. All right, we will move to Van City in 2 days. Everyone, let's not live in tents anymore. Let's live in big houses. Hidden mission: The return of the Dragon Princess has been completed. After the news of Molly turning into a hell demon dragon spread, the underground dragon city stripped her of her identity as the Dragon Empress and dragons without any hesitation. As the one who defeated the original Dragon Empress and the last inheritor of the Dragon King's bloodline, Einmesis, Little Red, was chosen by the Dragon City to become the new Dragon Empress. However, because Einmesis insisted on staying in Sulphur Mountain City, the dragons decided to build a new dragon city beside Sulphur Mountain City for her. From then on, Sulphur Mountain City will be under the protection of the underground dragons. Einmesis inherited the crown and became the new Dragon Empress. She is also the new autarch of the underground city. However, as she has always doted on and laid like her own daughter, she is destined to be the most reliable support for Enlaid. Reward: 5,000 fate points, Sulphur Mountain City. Little Red squints her eyes at the gigantic dragon city being built not too far away and the countless giant dragons in the sky, while dozing off. She isn't interested in the position of Dragon Empress, but she is very interested in the fact that the Dragon Empress can find a reason to steal the wealth of other giant dragons. She, who has just been appointed as the Dragon Empress, is intending to find a reason to settle old scores with a few old friends and make use of this opportunity to clear out their treasury. Hee, even if you are an ancient dragon, how can you not listen to the words of the Dragon Empress? It has been so many years since you contacted the Dragon City. Hurry up and hand over 200 years' worth of taxes. If you don't have money, you can use god equipment to pay for it. You don't even have a god equipment, so how did you manage to become an ancient dragon? Give me a dozen epic treasures then. It seems that under the control of this powerful Dragon Empress, there is hope for the underground dragon city to return to its peak. Hidden mission: the origin of law has been completed. When you ascended to godhood, the news of Sulphur Mountain City being the holy land of law has spread to every corner of the world. At this moment, countless travelers come here to learn the power of law. Furthermore, the spatial distortion between Sulphur Mountain City and Vance, which is connected to the surface world, gives it an extremely high commercial value. It is fated to become a famous city in the world. Its new political structure, where the administration and the judiciary are separated and the unique way the races interact with each other, will become a model for countless cities to imitate and research. City Lord Enlaid is also fated to become famous because of this. The reward is 10,000 honor points. Why me? I don't want to be that whatever supreme judge. In the Supreme Court of Sulphur Mountain City, after sending off the guests who congratulated him on becoming the supreme judge with a calm face, he turns around and closes the door. Then, he flies into a rage and roars at his colleagues who are watching the commotion. Recently, he has been too busy, so busy that he couldn't even pick up his greatest hobby in life. He is so busy that he feels that his little assistant hasn't seen the wind for a long time and is feeling listless. Cough, cough, I am really too old. I am afraid that I am unable to accept such a heavy responsibility. If I am unable to carry out the heavy responsibility that Lord has left behind because of my old age, wouldn't I become a sinner? Kale. Dia fakes a cough while winking at his colleagues. The seemingly kind and old him seems to be unable to do as he wishes, but in reality, everyone is criticizing him in their hearts. When we met you a few decades ago, you were already like this. As a high elf, even if we were to die of old age, you would still be like this. Furthermore, the Hall of Trials has to let me hold the fort. I am probably the only one who can hold down those experts who are here to learn the power of law. Also, the mission to develop a new incantation, I really can't leave this place. As the number one expert of the 4 halls and 1 courtyard, he does need a super expert to hold down the fort. Furthermore, as the strongest incantationer, developing a new incantation is also his heavy responsibility. Lilith looks helplessly at the silly cow who is panting heavily. I am fine with it, but right now, Lord Marguerite is preparing for her wedding trip and the heir, Silver Rose Eliza, suddenly refuses to take up the responsibility. If I don't go to the executive office to hold the fort, are you going to do it? All right. I can't handle the mountain of documents that is enough to drown the entire room. Shuadi turns his gaze towards the last of the four heavenly kings of law. The newly promoted supreme judge of Chrome City, Kevin, is trying his best to shrink his body, trying his best to reduce his presence. Kevin, my close brother, I will swap with you. I will go to Chrome City to take charge of the work. You can be the supreme judge. All right, the first thing I will do after taking office is to legislate nude running as a heavy crime. At the same time, I will also clean up the Gentleman Alliance and Wild Bull Alliance that are filled with perverts and gays. I will wrap them up in 3 layers and hang them on the flagpole to dry. Wrap them up in 3 layers in this hot season? Their sweat will probably fall like rain, dehydrating them in less than 2 hours. Hang them on the flagpole to dry? Are they going to dry them first before making them into salted meat? The seemingly honest, middle-aged man smiles generously, but the cold glint in his eyes makes everyone's heart tremble. It turns out that a dog that bites never barks. The most black-bellied and black-hearted ones are usually the ones that appear to be the most kind and honest. At this moment, when Kevin smiles, Shuadi immediately shrinks back. Cough, cough. Since everyone trusts me, I will work hard to become the supreme judge. All right, under the threat, Shuadi brings the God Equipment Codex and Semi-God Equipment Gavel that Wumian's left behind with a tearful face and prepares to deal with the guests that keep coming to his door. Behind him are his colleagues who escaped from their heavy responsibility happily. However, from a certain point of view, after the original successor, Eliza, quit, he, who has some prestige, is indeed the most suitable successor. Him taking over as the supreme judge is also the hope of the masses. Main mission: the only queen of the underground world has been completed. And Galen's personal strength has reached saint rank, and she has obtained the full support of the newly ascended Dragon Empress and Beastman King, the 2 underground autarchs. Sulphur Mountain City's internal structure is unified and powerful. Furthermore, she has obtained the support of the elves. Out of the 5 underground autarchs, there is a 70% chance that she will become the ruler of the underground world within 10 years. The main mission has been completed perfectly. The reward is 20,000 fate points. If I still had a chin, it would definitely be a situation where my chin would drop to the ground. What have I done for the underground world, which is always filled with internal strife, to have another emperor appear? Looking at history, that would definitely be a huge calamity for the surface world. Due to your good relationship with Galen, during the invasion of the underground world, you could try to eliminate the possibility of war through negotiation. Congratulations, you have done well. You have successfully changed one of the catastrophes that is destined to descend. It actually praises me? Is this still that darn system? But its reminder made me realize something. An empress-like, and is a completely different matter from those ambitious and ruthless people who yearn to build their country on the surface world. The inhabitants of the underground world yearn for sunlight and fresh air. Thus, invading the surface world is unavoidable. Countless battles in history have proven this point as well. But compared to Sho, who defected to the demons, Edgerer, who defected to the devils, and the arrogant Dragon Empress Molly, if we were to lead the invasion, perhaps it would be possible to prevent the war from destroying everything. Thus, I immediately thought of a few countries that I have a grudge against and a few barren lands with few people. As long as the investment is sufficient, those deserts and barren lands can be inhabited. Looks like I have to make a trip to the few human countries that have a passageway to the underground world. I also have to think of ways to get these human countries to accept new neighbors. Even though it is difficult, it isn't completely hopeless. Just when I thought that it was over, the system spoke up once more, calculating the fate points of individual heroes. Moon Knight Diana has made up her mind to find her own path. She has already performed a moonlight ritual to change her skin color and will head to the surface world in the near future. Reward: 1,000 fate points. System-friendly reminder: I suggest that you go with her. She will be a good nanny and meat shield. Eagle Storm has brought a portion of his tribe back to the surface world. He feels that he has found a new faith in Sulphur Mountain City. In the near future, a drool sect that pursues a neutral balance and uses law to achieve coexistence will rise. Reward: 1,000 fate points. In Sulphur Mountain City, Gnome and Gnome engineering has begun to merge. In the near future, a brand new engineering school will be born. The name of the wise Roland will be recorded in the history books as the founder. The Roland series of robots will also appear in daily use, night use, water use, aerial use, and many other variants. Reward: 1,000 fate points. Bayphone: Herald. Under your influence, he finally understood the path of equality for all living things. Thus, he walked on his own legendary path. Alright, he's really too disgusting. Even the system doesn't want to say more. All you need to know is his glorious title: the man who single-handedly created multiple races. Reward: 10,000 fate points. Looking at that frightening 10,000 fate points, I didn't dare to ask any further. A myth-ranked hero, a new drool sect, is only rewarded with 1,000 fate points. 10,000 fate points? What did that pervert Bayphone do? He created multiple races by himself? He isn't even a mage, so how did he do it? I faintly guessed something, but my rational mind refused to think about it. After a series of notifications, I was already numb to it. Finally, it was time to calculate my fate points. Fate points: 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 7. Looking at this frightening number of fate points, I sucked in a breath of cold air. This darn system wasn't wrong in saying that the myth-ranked storyline was really generous. Of course, the change of the Queen of the Underground World and the related powers was enough to change the situation of the entire Underground World. Thus, the amount of fate points produced was naturally not small. The only inconceivable thing was still that Bayphone. Herald. A bright gold coupon also appeared in my hands. Looks like I didn't need it for my revival this time. Alright, revive for me. Right, there's also Eliza. What happened to her? Right, who was the one who released the fire elemental god? While the 4 heavenly kings of law were still trying to push away their authority in the undead district of the same city, the other 4 heavenly kings were reunited. Even if we include the war not too long ago, the infallible Definder had only appeared twice in history, and the people who saw it the first time were all dead. However, that huge army still shocked the entire underground world. But at this moment, those brave, undead warriors were still living as usual. The dancing banshee continued to dance, and the divination Lich continued to do his divination. It was just that due to the undead army's attack that day, protecting the city and its citizens, the relationship between the undead and the living improved significantly. The Crown of Death Paradise also had quite a number of visitors. Of course, there would definitely be trouble, but when has the Red Hunting Hounds ever been afraid of trouble, especially now that there's a true god protecting them? However, those who have seen the soul world have already been destroyed, but those who have seen it on their side followed the clues and found their way to the door. At this moment, in a secret room in a dilapidated tower, on one side sits the zombie King Dekars, Spider Marquis Lionheart, Bone Dragon Queen Gria, and on the other side sits the demonic Voidhound Bastion. Adding the carnivore Audang, who is currently dozing off, the 4 heavenly kings of Emperor Yonya. Due to a certain person's weird insistence, there must be 5 of the 4 heavenly kings, are all gathered. Their secret discussion has already lasted for several days. This is His Highness's plan. Of course, this is only a part of it. If you are willing to join, I will tell you the entire plan. The Emperor's intention is that if you are willing to join, then join. If you are unwilling, then I won't force you. Before this shocking secret, even the one who was hailed as the strongest strategist in the Shiloh Empire, Lionheart, was at a loss. But when he was hesitating, his companions had already made their decision. That is to say, the Emperor is still in the mortal world. Great, I'm going to look for him. All right, Gria doesn't care about the scheming at all. She's just happy that Roland is still in the mortal world. Whatever Appa asks Audang to do, Audang will do. Of the 4 heavenly kings, only Audang and Bastion are the 7 deadly sins, the creations of Emperor Yonya. Without a doubt, they're the most loyal to the Emperor's faction. After hesitating for a moment, Lionheart still nods his head in the end. I also believe in the Emperor's wisdom and decisions. Our royal power faction is still loyal to the Emperor and looks forward to the Emperor's return. Everyone's gaze turns to the last of the four heavenly kings, Dekars, who has already joined the Parliament faction. If not for the letter from Emperor Yongye in his hands, proving that he is trustworthy, Bastion would have killed him long ago. I've already returned to the Emperor's side. The secret that the Emperor wanted me to investigate has also been found out recently. Corpse, ice, desecration, and 6 other large undead planes were opened 15 years ago. These days, Feyman has been running around the various planes. Hearing the news about the undead planes, everyone at the scene is shocked. After all, there are quite a few undead emperors and emperors of the previous generation in those planes. They could be considered as their seniors. However, the undead emperors of the other planes are not to be trifled with. Feyman and his Lich Council will only be eaten up by the other party. Looking at his progress, there are already a few planes that have agreed to work together with him. This is only possible if the first Senator Grakajo personally makes a move. I'm afraid that the super undead calamity predicted by the Emperor is just a matter of time. Looking at Feyman's gathering, those undead lords and emperors won't need more than 30 years to prepare for the war. Boss, bring this news to the Emperor. Yes, the current Dekars, who looks like a boorish man, has accepted Roland's assignment to serve as a spy for the Parliament faction. Even though he hasn't earned enough trust after more than 10 years, he has managed to obtain a lot of information from the clues he left behind and bribed spies. Suddenly, the secret of the collusion between the first and second senators and the military intelligence that the undead planes are planning to invade the Parliament. In an instant, in front of him. Damn it, if the third senator is still around, things might not have developed to this extent. Lionheart immediately understands why the Parliament faction has so many new experts. When the first and second senators work together, coupled with the support of the undead planes, coupled with the death of 2 senators from the neutral faction and a heavily injured one, the power of the Shua Empire tilting towards the other side is just a matter of time. All right, with a certain someone making a move, the disappearance of the Queen of Banshees Harlois has become a case without any leads. After losing her checks and balances, the Parliament faction is completely invincible, and the speed at which they're seizing full power is even faster. However, Bass smiles. The development of the situation is within the Emperor's predictions. Then, since everyone has decided to work together, then let's listen to the words that the Emperor left behind. This is what he said. Chapter 68. On the second week after Wumian's ascension to godhood, following the succession of City Lord, and many matters started to move on the right track. Due to Roland's departure, Adam and the others started to show more concern for Eliza. But what was comforting was that Eliza was unusually strong and didn't immerse herself in sorrow. Not only did she work as usual, she would also smile more often, as though she had already walked out of her trauma. Only, she seemed to be using work to bury her sorrow. She took the initiative to work overtime, leaving early and returning late, appearing less and less in public. Her friends were understanding and didn't disturb her at this time. At the same time, outside Sulphur Mountain City, the hot spring that Adam dug out of interest became a tourist attraction that was spread all over the streets. That was originally an ordinary spring water that Adam used to extract the heat energy from the fire elemental god. In order to suppress and weaken the fire elemental god, and took over his work and came here every night to extract the heat energy. Due to the overflowing heat energy, the spring water turned into a man-made hot spring. After Drool tested that the water was beneficial to the body and the news spread, this place instantly became the hottest tourist attraction in Sulphur Mountain City. But it was a pity that good times didn't last long. The heat extraction that was expected to take more than 10 years suddenly came to an end. In just a few days, the hot spring water turned cold. After being bustling for a few days, the place became an empty wasteland once again. When Arolowice was weakened to its limit, releasing it would stop the Chaos faction's plans and allow the elemental tide to occur according to history. At the same time, it would weaken the influence of the ancient elemental god's birth. This was the plan that Roland discussed with the others when he was still around. But now, the sudden disappearance of the heat energy only meant that the ancient fire elemental god, Arolowice, was rapidly weakening or even dying. The Chaos faction probably wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. The last time it was a count. The next time might be a duke. This was worrisome. But strangely, when Adam and the others strengthened their defenses, even though they had stopped extracting the heat energy, the spring water still strangely turned colder and colder. However, the Chaos faction didn't show any reaction. This strange lack of reaction made people feel that there was a conspiracy, as long as she was the guardian, and would come to investigate every day. Today, she accepted her foster father's suggestion and dug a hole in the water to bury herself. Finally, she used this stupid method to find the culprit behind Eralavi's decline. In the middle of the night, on top of the ice-cold cliff, two female warriors were exchanging blows. Just like in the past, and who was a warrior, was being suppressed by her mage in a direct confrontation. Just as she was fully focused on melee combat, an ice-cold thread suddenly hooked on her ankle. Then, with a tug and a shake of the ice thread, it was like hitting a drowning dog after it lost its balance. When the old opponent didn't show any mercy, the young, and was tightly bound with cuts caused by the ice thread. Why, Sister Liza? What do you want? That's right, the person who caused the pond's water to become ice-cold and the ancient fire elemental god to weaken and die was none other than Eliza. What did I do? I only used my marauders to steal the power of the fire elemental god. Eralavi's, who was suppressed by the seal, is simply the most delicious and nutritious supplement for me, who is also of the fire elemental chaos faction. This is impossible. That is far beyond the capacity of your body. How can an ant eat an elephant? Then eat some snacks first to increase the capacity of your body. The mountain breeze at night was very hurtful. A gust of cold wind blew and the dark clouds dispersed a little. The dim yellow light of the luminous moss shone down. That familiar face was now a little unfamiliar. Half of the originally silky silver hair had been dyed blood red by the fire elemental god, while the other half had an additional taste of ice. The cold face of the past had disappeared without a trace. The beautiful face that was enough to tempt a succubus had a seemingly ambiguous, but actually more ruthless smile. It was a cruel smile that looked forward to playing with prey and killing. The night wind blew her hair, revealing the dim yellow vertical pupils, which was the most obvious characteristic of a demon. The current Elise was no longer a half-demon. After letting go of her body and mind to accept the call of the abyss, she was already a pure demon. In an instant and understood. That, the heart of Cockajil in the National Treasury? Did you take it away? A demon's heart is the source of their power. Demons devour each other to evolve, but in reality, what they eat is only the other party's heart. In that battle, Cockajil's body turned into dust, but his heart was left behind as the most valuable spoil of war. It was stored in the Sulphur Mountain City's National Treasury. Yes, although I gave myself the official seal of the Administrative Yuan and the Supreme Court, no one actually checked it and allowed me to walk straight into the National Treasury. I spent a week to eat those 4 demon hearts. It was hard to guard against a thief in the family. Who would have thought that the most powerful successor to the Supreme Court and the Executive Yuan would embezzle what was supposed to be his job? Eliza's soul imprint marauder is very unique. It can steal the power that her body can bear. The ground that Cockajil walked on was scorched, and he's proficient in fire-type forbidden spells like Meteor Fire Rain. So he's the most suitable tonic for Eliza, who is also a fire-type demon, and immediately broke out in cold sweat. She also knows about the ability of Eliza's soul imprint, and demons have the powerful ability to devour each other, which is a perfect match for this ability. Adding the two together, even if the current Eliza isn't as strong as Cockajil, she isn't far from it. Seems like you have thought it through? In order to suppress and maintain this form, so that I won't be exiled to another dimension, I feel really bad. Don't force me to use my true power, otherwise no one will feel good. Eliza's smile is a little bitter. The power that she yearned for even in her dreams, the first thing she used after obtaining it is actually to deal with her friend. It really is a perfect irony. After which, she intends to leave. Since she was discovered, then she should speed up the devouring. Tonight, she will open the seal and complete the final devouring. If you do this, Uncle Bones will be sad. Sad? He only treats me as his daughter and younger sister. What I want isn't that kind of sadness. Don't be like this, Sister Eliza. There should be other ways. Let's work hard together. And shouts from her back, however, made her stop, and thought that she was hesitating, but what she is about to face is Eliza's furious questioning. Enlaid, what do you know? Do you think that everyone is as lucky as you, destined to become an ultimate expert? It wasn't easy for me to reach this realm after spending close to 100 years, but you actually reached it before 20. If this goes on, in another 20 years, after you completely fuse with the heart of the Phoenix, I won't be a match for you. Could this be the difference between our talents and hard work? You are the favored child of the heavens that everyone holds in their palms. Everyone pampers you. The inheritance of the Phoenix is waiting for you. The divine sword blessing of the Phoenix is waiting for you. The position of the city lord is waiting for you. What do I have? I only have that blockhead. And now, for the sake of this damned calamity, he wants to leave me as well. I have nothing left. I have nothing left. Tell me, what do you want me to accept such a fact? Sister Eliza, murmuring, and doesn't know how to reply. Do you know how it feels when the light of order descends, watching yourself die? Do you know how it feels to watch your loved ones die over and over again? I have already received enough. I have had enough of this powerless feeling of weakness. I have had enough of standing behind that fool's back, watching as he is hurt and riddled with scars. This time, I want to have enough strength to stand by his side, no matter where that strength comes from. No matter if that strength is evil in the eyes of the world. Under Anne's questioning, the cold and indifferent mask that she pretends to be is finally taken off. The emotions that she has accumulated in the past finally meet a breakthrough. Accompanied by a furious roar that comes from the bottom of her heart, the final tears of the young lady who is clenching her fists and roaring in anger fall. However, the overflowing flame magic turns the tears into droplets of fire, burning them in midair. But looking at the other party's tears, and stands up, and doesn't understand, and knows that if Sister Eliza were to go to the world of demons, Uncle Bones would be very sad, and doesn't want Uncle Bones to be sad, and she also doesn't want Sister Eliza to leave, and doesn't want such a future to happen, and wishes for everyone to be happy together, wishes for a future where everyone doesn't have to cry. The flames of the Phoenix ignite once again, the bloodline that is getting stronger and stronger, allowing and to transform into a humanoid phoenix. Following the light of the rules, the sole imprint of the Order faction is finally formed. At this crucial moment, Galen has successfully broken through to legend rank. Guardian. The flames of the Phoenix turn into an emblem of a shield and a crossbow, while the pair of bright eyes behind represent the attribute of this sole imprint, guardian and watchful. Following which, the illusory image of the Phoenix flames rises, proving that she is definitely not an ordinary legend rank. After breaking through this bottleneck, she immediately breaks through to saint rank. Before Anne, who had just broken through, could even make sense of her new ability, that fist ruthlessly smashes into her face. The frightening brute force sends the legend rank warrior flying. In the next second, countless threads catch up to her, binding her once again. And allow Big Sister to teach you one last lesson. Without the awareness of power, you are unable to achieve anything. Without the support of power, you are harming yourself and others. Along with the rising flames, the newly born demon aristocrat, Eliza, displays her strength. With a furious roar, the endless flames of the Phoenix are directly absorbed. Under the heavy bombardment of Eliza's fist, the defenseless and immediately falls into a coma. Under the power absorption threads, the newly born legend rank expert will probably be unconscious for a long time. At this point, no one can stop Eliza from completing her own sharp transformation. When the future demon marquis walks out of the seal, two people have been waiting at the door for a long time, and, who is hanging on a tree, has already fallen asleep in the arms of a blue figure. Hi, Eliza. It is still the same unconventional greeting, as if they have already agreed on it. Eliza and the two semi-gods are not surprised by the arrival of the other party. You won't stop me? Of course, everyone has the right to choose their own future. This is your choice, so why would we stop you? We are only sending you off. No matter if you are Eliza or Lisa, at the very least, we were once friends. Half squatting while speaking unconventional words, Adam actually takes out a handkerchief to send her off. Following which, the handkerchief embroidered with blue lilies is confiscated by the red-faced Marguerite. Without the resolve of power, nothing can be achieved. Without the support of power, kindness is harming oneself and others. Although it is a little extreme, it is indeed well said, and should be able to listen to it. Looking at Eliza, Marguerite is actually proud, as though she is looking at a proud student who has a successful career. As she speaks, she even nods her head in agreement. Since they heard all these, it means that they have been here for a long time, just that they didn't appear yet. Shaking her head, Eliza doesn't say anything else. Some things are better left unsaid than exposed. As the demon's gate opened and Elisa walked in, Margaret's voice sounded from within. However, this time, it wasn't as cold as usual, and there was more warmth in her voice. No matter what, Sulphur Mountain City is your home. If you feel wronged, you are welcome to come back anytime. I will be back. That fool Roland needs me. As the voice falls, the dimension gate closes, leaving the two semi-gods staring at each other. You saw Eliza's resolve, right? From what I can see, the stubborn but soft-hearted Roland probably won't be able to withstand it. Now, what about Anne? What about the matter you promised her? This time, it is Adam's turn to look helpless. I was intending to entrust my orphan to Roland before I die, holding his hand and saying, "Promise me to marry, and otherwise I won't be able to die in peace." Based on Roland's personality, there is a 90% chance that he would agree on the spot, and as long as he agreed, he would definitely fulfill his promise. But it is my fault for not dying. Then, when Roland comes back, we can act it out again. All right, to think that Adam's so-called arrangement is this. But, as expected of Adam, even though it is messing around, it does hit the nail on the head. If he were to really carry it out, there's a high chance that it would succeed. Looking at this foolish face, Marguerite's anger surges. Nonsense. Do you believe that if you mess around at this moment, Roland will really chop you down with a blade? Forget it. Let's not bother about it. The younger generation has their own fortune. Let them settle it themselves. All right, revive for me. Right, there's still Eliza. What happened to her? And who was the one who unsealed the fire elemental god? My question was not answered for a long time. In the end, a memory surges directly into my brain. It is what Eliza left behind. That memory flashes past my mind, and what follows after is a long silence. Is it worth it? Of course, I asked you the same question before. Do you still remember? I remember. That was when I told this plan to Eliza. She asked me like this: "Master, is it worth it to sacrifice so much?" And of course it is worth it. Without sacrifice, there will be no gains. If we don't change, what awaits this world is destruction and calamity. I feel that there are still many things that are worth living on. But the voice of a young lady comes from within. However, don't get me wrong. I'm not doing this for the world. I'm doing this for a wooden fool. Remember, the world doesn't owe me a favor, but you do. After a long silence, I finally smile. All right, I owe you one. When you come back, I will compensate you. That's more like it. I will help you find out news about Cavendish. That's all. Recently, I have been very busy. These demon brats, they betray us so easily. They are even more annoying than you. After which, the silver ring darkens. It isn't easy to communicate across dimensions. From the system's description, this ring can only be activated 3 times a day at most, and the accumulated time cannot exceed 15 minutes. Judging from the 2 times of communication, the password to activate this ring is most likely the name Eliza. At this moment, I silently remember this debt of gratitude. Then, I turn my attention to the system. At this moment, the system has already listed out all the different types of physical bodies according to my request. Normal human physical body. Strength, 10. Agility, 10. Stamina, 10. intelligence, 27 will, 19 charm, 10 talent, none lifespan, 60 years recommended job. Any job the physical body of a normal human is really not worth mentioning. Other than intelligence, and will which are additional attributes of the soul, the other attributes are only 10 points. Furthermore, their lifespan is short, so naturally, I won't choose them. However, the advantage of humans is that they can take on any job, and they are unobstructed on the surface. Even though the difference in basic attributes doesn't seem to be big now, as they grow, the difference in basic attributes and talent will become bigger and bigger. This is the biggest shortcoming. The system is really inflexible. It lists more than 50 types of physical bodies, but at least half of them are white physical bodies, no system rating, that I wouldn't even consider. The ones that attract me the most are naturally the few golden bloodlines at the bottom. Son of the ancient red dragon, dragon descendant. Strength, 19. Agility, 12. Stamina, 18. Intelligence, 25. Will, 17. Charm, 16. Talent, dragon transformation, dragon wings, dragon breath. Recommended job, mage, warrior. Lifespan, 2000. Overall evaluation, silver pinnacle. System notice. You can look for the dragon queen Ein Mises to undergo the dragon transformation ritual and obtain her bloodline to turn into a true dragon. Considering the relationship between the two of you, this isn't difficult at all. However, I'm afraid that you will have to call her mom in the future. Although the system notice makes me speechless, the power of a red dragon can't be underestimated. The ancient red dragon is a half-diamond bloodline. If it were to evolve into the diamond bloodline of an ancient dragon in the future, its battle prowess would definitely be reliable. Furthermore, after being a lich for so long, I am fed up with my weak physical body. The powerful physical body of dragons is indeed very attractive, but the drop in intelligence shows that this physical body has a negative effect on intelligence. However, considering that I am going to enter human society in the future, an obvious abnormality like dragon wings isn't very suitable. I can only keep this in mind for the time being. Immortal, artificial body. Strength, 12. Agility, 12. Stamina, 15. Intelligence, 30. Will, 20. Charm, 18. Talent. Immortal, high-speed learning, release specialization. Recommended job, mage, recommended to become a saint in the future. Overall evaluation, gold. System notice. There is no need to explain how this bloodline came about, but it is definitely powerful. As it is a clone of a unique individual, there are some side effects, such as the appearance and skin color similar to the original. You know what I mean. If you call me now, you will also receive a marguerite set along with a physical body. Side effects? Skin color similar? I think it is just the appearance that is similar. Partial similarity? I think it is most likely to be exactly the same. Straight up feminine transformation. It isn't that easy to scam me. Pass. Son of the god of law, descendant of God. Strength, 12. Agility, 12. Physique, 18. Intelligence, 27. Will, 17. Charm, 20. Talent. Son of law, power of law increases in speed by 100%. Effects increased by 30%. Recommended job, that bunch of law job that you invented. Overall evaluation, gold. System notice, don't hesitate. This is the most suitable for you. Also, how does it feel to be your own son? All right, I ignore this darn system notice once again. I am indeed a little tempted by this physical body. However, this physical body of a descendant of God that is obviously inclined towards the Order faction means that necromancy is just a side character from now on. Then, the impregnable Definder is completely useless. On this point, the weakest humans are actually the strongest. They don't have any inclination towards anything. Any job can be changed into, and any power can be tried to grasp. However, thinking about humans and the previous generation of Order citizens, I also thought about the two special gifts from Ale. I hurriedly submit them to the system. After a long while, two new physical body options appear in the system's menu. Bloodline of the first generation son of Order, royal family, descendant of God. Strength, 18. agility, 18, physique, 20, intelligence, 27, will, 17, charm, 20, talent, war angel form. Overall evaluation, diamond bloodline. Recommended job, order knight. System evaluation, as expected of the favored son of the goddess of order. The order knight is a special basic job created by the system based on this bloodline. It is able to use any power of order, including law and holy light. It is definitely powerful. Perhaps he isn't as good as the one below, but his potential is limitless. Some things can only be seen through comparison. Without a doubt, this bloodline is really powerful. Furthermore, the Son of Order has the same weakness as the Son of Law. Their incompatibility with necromancy will still cause negative effects on the soul world. On the other side, bloodline of the first-generation son of Chaos, royal family, demon descendant. Strength, 22, agility, 20, physique, 22, intelligence, 29, will, 20, charm, 8, talent, original sin demon god form. Overall evaluation, diamond bloodline. Recommended job, chaos witch king, devil knight. System evaluation, ridiculously powerful basic stats. Perfect physical body. Choosing him will grant you endless power. Of course, if your devil bloodline is exposed in the human world, I hope that you can run fast enough. Other than charm, all his stats are over 20, easily crushing the basic stats of a legend rank expert. This physical body is unimaginably strong. However, the problem is the same as the one above. It is still incompatible with the power of order. Thus, I really hesitated. Without a doubt, this choice is extremely important. But no matter what I choose, there will be regrets. It would be great if I could combine both of them. How can there be such a beautiful thing in the world? It is impossible just thinking about it. Thus, I shook my head. But suddenly, the system spoke up. It can be done, but you have to pay the fate points of 2 bloodline bodies. What? Why didn't you say so earlier? Why didn't you list it out? You didn't ask. All right, cut the crap. Hurry up and list it out. Arbiter bloodline, strength, 19, agility, 19, stamina, 19, intelligence, 29 will, 19, charm, 19. Talent ability, war angel form, original sin demon form. Overall evaluation, double diamond bloodline. Recommended job, order knight / chaos witch king. System evaluation, an arbiter bloodline that straddles the boundary between order and chaos. It doesn't belong to any faction, but it is able to coexist with any faction. The same origin but different bloodline created this miraculous physical body. It might not be the strongest, but it is definitely the one with the most potential. Looking at this, I was overjoyed. However, I hesitated and asked an obvious question. Since it can be mixed, then is it possible to add dragon blood, phoenix blood, and the like to strengthen the physical body? I can get them to draw their blood. However, the system's reply was like a bucket of cold water. Do you think that a mixed breed dog will be worth more than a purebred dog? This is a genetic level physical body duplication, not a concoction. The excess bloodline will only cause the physical body to collapse. Turning into a monster is considered lucky. For this physical body, the 2 bloodlines originate from the same origin. However, under the god power of the creator god, they become 2 completely opposite life forms, which is why it is possible to fuse them together. This is an extremely rare exception. However, you can try to collect 7 different color dragon blood and make a wish to form the rainbow dragon bloodline. I will help you get ahead of Mary Sue Longhair. Since that is the case, what else is there to say? I'll just do it. However, based on my understanding of the system, it would be abnormal if it isn't a scam. There is nothing wrong with being more guarded against it. What other flaws does this physical body have? Just tell me. In order to maintain the balance of this physical body, it needs to train in both order and chaos power at the same time. It requires a large amount of time and effort. 2 basic jobs, order knight / chaos witch king. This is a good thing. Or should I say, there are other fatal weaknesses? Opening the system's job introduction, I realized that the Order Knight is like the combination of a Holy Knight and a Justice Knight. As for the Chaos Witch King, it is the combination of a Necromancer and an Elemental Mage. This is the path that I have walked on before, and it is the path that I am most suitable for. These two jobs aren't completely separated. On the interface, the four skill trees intersect with each other, complementing each other. The skills and abilities that I have learned are marked in gray on the skill tree. For example, Ice Aeon is at the top of the Ice skill tree. As for Infallible Definder, it requires all four elements to be at least Legend rank. At the intersection of the Death skill tree and Ice skill tree, there's also a compound skill like Summon Ice Lich. The difficulty of growing a special job is 1, 5 times that of a normal job. However, having 2 special jobs means that the difficulty is 2 times. Adding on the fact that the Diamond Bloodline has a physical body that grows slowly, all in all, it is at least 3 times harder to level up than a normal human. Hearing that, I am delighted. Isn't it just a 3 times the experience penalty? So what if my growth is slow? As long as I can use fate points as a cheat, why should I be afraid of being slow? Now that there's a storm going on outside, if I don't have enough points, I could just do a few more epic rank quests. I am not afraid of it being slow. I am afraid that it isn't strong enough. Alright, this is it. The physical body that was sold for 200,000 fate points became 100,000 fate points after I used the discount. Even so, the points that I worked so hard to earn only amounted to 20,000. It is hard to earn money, but easy to spend it. In a single night, I am back to square one. As the halo descends, that familiar feeling of the physical body makes my entire body feel comfortable. I, Roland Mist, am finally alive. I am finally a man. I finally have a companion. I can finally whistle at a beauty openly. But as usual, my happiness doesn't last for long. Very quickly, when I look at myself in the mirror of the underground river, I can't help but scream in agony. System, you tricked me again. One day, I will hack you into pieces. You didn't even ask. Hee, this is our service motto. If you're dissatisfied, we are satisfied. If you are unhappy, we are happy. The one who tricked you is you. Welcome. Please remember to come again next time. Dear, don't forget to leave a good review. Chapter 69. I'm really a fool, really. Wearing the black cloak that I borrowed from the kind-hearted merchant, I wrap myself up tightly and carefully traverse the streets of Sulphur Mountain City. I know that the system has never been kind, so most of the things it recommends are problematic, and I definitely can't choose them. What I didn't know is that even if there are no problems with the system, there will be problems with it. Look, the average of the 2 bloodlines is higher than the current one. This clearly shows that there's a problem with this body. Also, that darn charm. Do you think that the system will be kind enough to let me be popular with pretty girls? This is obviously a trap. Why did I jump into it back then? I am really a fool, really. The little bat beside me glared at me fiercely. Enough. You have nagged me for 100 times. Did your IQ drop after changing your body? No, it's just that seeing you in a worse state made my mood a little better, so I wanted to nag a little more. Magic Pet, Harlow's Matrix of Greed, Race, Unable to be Classified, Strength, 12, Agility, 10, Stamina, 30, Intelligence, 28, Will, 25, Charm, Uncertain, Job, LV1 Mage, Overall Evaluation, Trash even more trash than you. Race Ability, Transformation, Iron, System Evaluation. This is your magic pet, but she's constantly thinking about how to get rid of you within the limits of the contract. Take care of her, or wait for her to defeat you. System Notification. I intentionally left the previous evaluation. Now, you don't have to worry about her rebelling. The Great Queen of Banshees can only transform between a bat and a kitten. Her strongest defensive ability is probably Cat Pounce and Cat Lick. Well done. To think that there is someone in a worse state than you. When I temporarily died, Harlow's, who was almost destroyed, was kept into the system. Now that I have revived, she has started to move again. However, I'm still a living person when I drop to LV1, but she can no longer maintain her human form when she drops to LV1. Are you sure that if I remove your cloth and scream that someone is running around naked here, what will happen? Gritting her teeth, The little bat uttered the scariest threat she could think of, but I laughed. Go ahead, running around naked here is a common occurrence. No one will mind. Running around naked isn't news. It is news when no one runs around naked every few days. Yeah, do you think I am a fool? How can there be such a scary place? Catch that naked bull. That's right, the one nicknamed the Naked King. Don't let him escape. He had only been quiet for a few days, and that damned Wild Bull Alliance and Gentleman Alliance were actually active again. This time, we'll lock them up for a month. Before Harloise could finish her words, her jaw dropped in shock. While I was still in a daze, a naked Tauren and a group of naked men dashed past. Immediately, a group of dark elf knight chased after them. The supreme judge with the honorary title of Naked King. Inexplicably, my heart ached. My worry for the legal system mixed with the shame of my family's misfortune. I felt an urge to clean up my family and silence them. However, it was obvious that if I drew my sword in anger, I wouldn't be cleaning up my family. I would be sending myself to my death. Let's go. I have plenty of toys in my lab that use illusion to change one's appearance. Looking at my current state, I can't do anything. While searching for a way to deal with that fellow in my mind, I carefully wrap my cloak around myself. From a certain perspective, this city is the safest in the entire underground city. But from another perspective, it is also the most dangerous, especially since my current state isn't good. While avoiding sight, I carefully pulled my magic pet bat along as I walked quickly. However, Harloise was staring dumbfounded at the other side. A few Holy Knight and a few Death Knight were chatting happily. This is definitely a situation that can't be seen anywhere else. It is the symbol of the harmonious coexistence of order and chaos. Just as I was about to boast a little, they started fighting in the next moment. While fighting, they scolded and argued fiercely. Their attacks were vicious. That's more like it. Harloise nodded her head in satisfaction. However, at this moment, a scolding sound traveled over, leaving Harloise dumbfounded. You bastard, you don't know what to say. Did you agree to the Banshee Fellowship? Why are there only a few female undead? Look at their faces, they are covered in maggots. Can they even look? TSK, ignorant brat. That is the fashion of our undead district. Also, are you decent? Did you agree to the beautiful clerics? Why are there only a few cafeteria Annies? Do you think we are fools? There were already spectators cheering on the side. The argument between the two sides got fiercer and fiercer as they fought. However, the Death Knight didn't use his rune sword, and the Holy Knight Gate didn't use Holy Light. Instead, they started punching and kicking like hoodlums. You want to meet the banshees and medusas of our district? Don't talk about the door. There isn't even a window. We can't even get them ourselves, so why should we introduce them to you? Let me tell you the truth. We have to fight physically just to talk to the female clerics. Resources are so scarce, so why should we introduce them to you? All right, amidst the booing from the spectators, the matter was already clear. The reason why both sides organized the fellowship was to gain something from the other party's female resources. In the end, both sides bumped into each other and realized the other party's intentions. The fellowship between the undead and the Holy Knight? Is this world crazy, or am I crazy? Harloise was dumbfounded. Should I be thankful that I have a body? Looking at this bunch of buffoons, I clutched my stomach. That should be my stomach, right? This was the first time I felt what a stomach ache and neuralgia was. Someone go and contact the town security. Don't move. Who is creating chaos? Haha, it's you bunch of grandsons again. Last time, during the tripartite gathering, you guys were really amazing. You actually dared to bring a half-goat and a half-horse. If it wasn't for the fact that we were quick-witted and called the legendary Bayfong over to scare away those hungry beauties, we would have already fallen into your hands. This time, we will settle our old and new grudges together. Eat my condemnation strike. All right, there was no need to call the town security anymore. This new graduate from Nanxiang has already arrived. However, from the information he revealed, should I be impressed by their friendship? Somehow, my stomach hurts even more. Ouch! All of a sudden, someone knocked me into the air. Sorry. Momo is chasing after those bastards. It turns out that when a dark elf town security was chasing after them, he accidentally knocked into my body. My cloak was knocked away, and light shone into my eyes, blinding my eyes. However, looking at the shocked Momo, I immediately came to my senses. I hurriedly used the cloak to cover my body. The system wouldn't be so kind as to give you a set of clothes. Just like what Harlowe said, my new body was almost naked, and I wasn't wearing anything under the cloak. I have nothing to do with those fellows from the Wild Bull Alliance. I am a newbie who came here to learn the power of law. It is just that I was robbed and my clothes were stolen. I try my best to recall the second smile of the Holy Night, the smile of righteousness when I didn't do anything wrong. At the same time, I try my best to distance myself from those perverts. I don't want to be locked up in the juvenile detention center for no reason. I'm already penniless, so I came to rely on the Lich uncle named Roland. This is Amio, my best friend. Then, I raised Harloise in front of the dark elf. At this moment, under my command, she had already turned into a cute black kitten. Under my command through the magic pet contract. Even though the dignified Queen of Banshees was so angry that her eyes were about to spit fire, she could only obediently meow and act cute. Meow. Hee hee. Girls usually have no resistance towards cute things. Seeing that I am not a threat, she will definitely let me go after a quick check. But very quickly, I realized that my actions were unnecessary. The female Dark Elf Town security ignored the Queen of Banshees, who was meowing and only stared at me without saying a word. Then my saliva dripped down without a care for my image. I am rich. A top-grade Shota. Naked. Can Momo eat me? Immediately, anger flared up and I roared furiously. You are the Shota. Your whole family are Shotas. All right, this time I admit that I was scammed by the system. What training from a young age is beneficial for controlling one's body? What soul and physical body are the most closely linked? No matter how many excuses I use to comfort myself, it can't hide the fact that I was scammed. A 14-year-old physical body is indeed the expected age of my physical body, and it is also the true form of my soul, suitable for the fusion of soul and physical body. But how would I know that ancient humans live for more than 200 years? To them, a 14-year-old is still a child. Yes, the average lifespan of the first-generation humans is at least twice that of the current humans. This 14-year-old physical body of mine looks at most 10 years old. I should have thought of it long ago. Compared to the other two physical bodies, the basic attributes of his physical body are slightly lower due to my young age, and the high charm value is purely due to the fact that children are usually cute. Yes, cute, the kind of cute that doesn't care about handsomeness. His golden hair exudes the radiance of the sun, and his cheeks are rosy, just like a freshly washed red apple, tempting one to take a bite. His white skin is moist, and it is obvious that he hasn't been exposed to the sun before. On his small face, there is a sunny smile that he is used to, making one feel his cheerful and lively personality. Turning back to a young age isn't scary. What is scary is that when I used the Dark River to look at myself in the mirror, I felt like an oversized doll, very cute. 19 charm. If it were an adult, it would be such a charming existence. Using it to pick up girls is practically invincible. But on a child, what is the use of being cute? This isn't the most sinister part of the system. A young outer appearance isn't a big deal to a mage. There are all kinds of secret potions and tools to fool one's age. Old demonesses and old monsters that pretend to be young can be seen everywhere. As long as I return to the laboratory and take out my collection, disguising as an adult isn't a problem at all. But the biggest problem now, even though I have a little partner, as it hasn't matured yet, it is equivalent to not having one. This is the core of the problem. I knew that the system didn't have good intentions. It wasn't easy for me to get rid of the body of a lich that doesn't have any physical desires, but it gave me a physical body that hasn't matured yet, one that doesn't have any physical desires. My current goal is to hurry back to the underground book vault to check on when the first-generation humans reach puberty and when they can get married. All right, I know that there isn't a book that would be so boring as to record all these, but thinking about it isn't wrong. At this moment, looking at the drooling and love-struck dark elf, this time, it seems like a disaster is about to befall me. Little cutie, no, little friend, how about going to see goldfish with me? There are many cute little animals at my house. Goldfish. There are goldfish in the underground world. Do you think that I am a fool? Currently, I am only LV1, so it is impossible for me to defeat this weakest silver rank town security knight. Right, little friend. I still have lollipops here. Looking at this idiotic elf taking out a large amount of candy from her breastplate, I have no idea what her brain is made of. Is this the Sulphur Mountain City's proud town security knight? Thinking about this, my stomach hurts even more. Let go of me. I don't want to. It isn't easy for me to meet such an appetizing one. Momo must catch him and raise him. I will be able to harvest him after a few years. Momo will be the first to find a husband among the sisters. All right. Momo has already forgotten about her identity as an enforcer and is immersed in her dreams. To have such a cute little husband. Momo will be envied to death by the other sisters. I really want to woo pretty girls, but I don't want to be wooed by pretty girls like a child bride. Thus, without saying a word, I turn around and run. But just after running 2 steps, the pain in my stomach worsens. Then, I fall to the ground helplessly. Why do I feel so uncomfortable? My entire body feels weak. Could it be that there's a problem with the fusion of my physical body? But suddenly, I feel my entire body being carried up. The voice of that love-struck elf is right beside my ears. Why are you so light, little friend? Have you obediently eaten your meal? Eat. All right. I finally remember what I forgot. It took me 2 days to walk over from the underground river. But, having just turned into a living, I have long forgotten the habits of a living. I really didn't expect that I would have to eat. Furthermore, Harlois, who is also an undead, wouldn't have thought of reminding me. So it isn't a stomachache, it is hunger. For you to be fine after not eating for 2 days, looks like your body is still quite healthy. After coming to a realization, the next moment, I fainted from hunger. But luckily, before I fainted, I shouted with all my might, "Save me! There's a weird Annie. She wants to feed me milk." Looking at the town security rushing over, my chastity should be preserved. Tragedy. Darn system, I will not live under the same sky as you.